man! Hello, and welcome to the Saladcast on Sunday, the 10th of March, 2024. I'm your host, Dan Train. Joining me today is Zachary Burgess.
Catman.
And Robert Kemp.
Eggman.
Appropriate.
That's what I am. I am the Eggman. I've got the master plan. Hey, have you messed around with Teams vocal coach at all, Dan?
As in Teams, as in Microsoft
Teams, as in Microsoft Teams.
No,
Yes,
what is that?
So there's an option in new Teams.
In new, for work or school or whatever, with a little badge on the stupid icon that says new. In like a teal colour for some reason.
For new Super Mario Teams, yes. If you go into like the options and go like under language settings, there's this like vocal coach option, and you turn that on, and then it starts having a go at you for how you talk
in a meeting.
Well,
it puts a little stop swearing or something.
Well, I haven't had it suggest that, surprisingly, but it does put a little like pop up on screen when it thinks you're talking too fast or you're using too many filler words like like, I mean, basically, stuff like that.
Oh my god, what a weird feature.
Or if you're talking too much and not leaving pauses for people to interject. Something that might be useful on a podcast, so I'm listening to that one.
Yeah, but I think we sometime in probably one of the quite early years of the podcast, we tried an episode where we were like, let's not say like all the time, and it just didn't work. It's like, it's not possible. I'm doing it now. I literally said it twice in that sentence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It has highlighted that I do say quite a things like, oh, I mean this, and a lot, apparently. That I didn't realise I did quite as much as I do. But I do that, right? If someone's like puts a statement in and I'm having a thing and I go, well, I mean, it's a bit like and it's
what's wrong with that? What are you supposed to say?
Just say what you think, I guess, and just be, it's a bit like singing. You don't have to go the, well, I mean, at the start.
Yeah, but it kind of, I don't know. It kind of gives a certain inflection to it, doesn't it? That coming from you,
bit of personality. It's like when you accidentally end a sentence with "so," and you've actually got nothing more to say. Do you do that? Like where you sort of describe something and be like, that's because he's a dick. So you know?
That kind of actually does mean something, though, right? Because that's like, you're implying that the other person needs to agree with you at that point, please.
Oh, I guess. Okay. Okay. I see what you're getting at. So you use it to like encourage others to be like, Yeah. Is it a bit like going,
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
These things are useful. I think there's definitely some things like, and the purpose of like, or whatever, well, one of the purposes is to indicate to the other person that
you're not done
you haven't
talking
finished
yet.
talking. Yeah. And you just have something to say, you just don't have it ready just yet. So you need to fill the gap so they don't jump in.
Not quite on the tip of my tongue just yet. I need to ponder for just a second. I'll tell you the other thing it does that's pretty funny though. Like it that you should ignore. It's like it has an inclusive-ness section. So it's trying to discourage you from using language that might be
not
unacceptable, non-PC, that kind of stuff. Problem is it's a bit sensitive, shall we say.
Well, you need a slider is what you're saying. You need to be able to like scale how much of it. Kinda,
because if I were in my very first few sentences of this podcast, I said I have the master plan.
That's slightly different. That's a quote.
Right? Yeah, but it would a lyric from a song you didn't write, right?
But it would pick up the word master and say, "Oh, you shouldn't use that." You should, in the same way that Git is no longer calling it the master branch, right? They call it main branch because they're too worried about master-slave relationships being.
You know, the one that I have only recently realized I need to recalibrate is a whitelist and blacklist. You're not supposed to use that, which makes sense.
Really?
I guess.
Oh,
yeah.
Oh, right. For fairly obvious reasons.
Oh, right.
White is good and black is bad, right? So you're so it's like allow list and block list, which is quite easy to switch to. Actually, allow list is a little bit cumbersome, but I mean,
I don't like the sound of that. That doesn't feel. I don't know.
What would you use?
It's not good word feel.
Yeah, I immediately thought permit list, but that's not much better.
Permit list.
Yeah.
Like, could we just pick other colours? Like,
no, I don't think you can.
This is my blue list.
Yeah.
blue list or red list?
Blue alert.
Anyway, I'm probably going to be saying whitelist for a while until I adjust.
It's so embedded, but I guess I get it. Is that? But what's the etymology? Like, surely that should be what deems it as good or bad language.
That's not how that works, though, is it? That's why master and slave got taken away.
Exactly. Yeah,
because those were not in any reference to the bad implications of that word.
You can be a master of something without there being a slave context, right? That's not how.
Yeah.
Well, sure, but in the context of computers, which is like why GitHub, it's always been master and slave.
Yeah. I guess that's
because they just borrowed that from.
But if you're
like
just
hard
saying it on a
drives
Teams call, it could be like, isn't like a little like a boy before he becomes a mister is a master, isn't it?
Sure.
In like
that's still a thing.
old-fashioned timing.
I can still be Master Kemp if I
young
wasn't,
Master Kemp. Yeah,
but then that would be
be
the opposite implication of the normal master and slave, right? Because then the master would be the lesser one, and the mister would be the.
Maybe Teams knows the full context. And it's like AI analyzing exactly what you're talking about.
I definitely don't think it does.
No,
partly because it's not able to tell the difference between invalid and invalid.
Oh,
right.
Because you could be saying, "Oh, that's an invalid input," and it will go, "Oh, you shouldn't use that. You should try something more."
How can it not detect the difference between that? That's a completely different.
The pronunciation is at least different in English. I don't know if that's.
I think maybe it's just looking at because it already had the text transcript feature.
It's got the transcription.
Maybe it's just reading the transcript, and therefore you can't tell.
That's absolutely what it's doing. It's something.
Yeah,
but it should be able to get it from context even then.
Yeah.
If it is just using text.
You'd think.
Yeah, but it probably isn't looking at context, right? It's probably just.
Oh, I saw that word. That's a bad word. The funny thing is like it suggests alternatives, and I can't remember what it suggests for invalid, but for master it goes, "Have you tried using expert?" So we've just started calling things the expert branch.
The expert branch, yeah.
Well,
that's
just
interesting.
Deliberately say whitelist and blacklist into it and see what it comes up with.
Yeah,
I might turn that on just to see how funny it is. Like, it doesn't.
It is weird.
Tell anyone else in the meeting.
No. It doesn't tell anyone that you've got it on, and it gives you a report in your activity feed afterwards if you want to dig in. But otherwise, it will just do these little subtle pop-ups during the meeting. It's weird. I have now since turned it off because it doesn't. It's funny the first couple of times, and then it's just like, well, actually, I don't quite know how to use this information.
No,
like. I just said for no reason.
Yep. Speaking of annoying pop-ups, I guess, on my computer, so I've been trying to use. I finally now with my new PC, I'm not going to install Winamp this time.
But it really whips the llama's ass.
I know. But the thing is, on my previous PC, I was still using the version of Winamp I had from the PC before that. I was literally
5.7.
Yeah, from probably the first time we installed Winamp almost.
Oh man, we got involved in 2 though, didn't we? Winamp 2 era.
Yeah.
So ancient.
So I still had that ancient version installed on my.
Is it 32-bit? Is it running incompatibility?
I don't remember. I don't think so. I think it still just worked fine on that PC. But I was like, well, I don't want modern Winamp, but I'm not going to try and bring that ancient as install over from the previous PC either. So I just was like, maybe I can get away with not having Winamp, and I'll just use VLC, I guess. Does
Winamp exist then? Did somebody?
I think it still does, yeah.
Yeah, it's still about. Yeah, someone bought it and took over. And I thought they were still on a version of Winamp 5. I didn't think it had actually got pushed very far.
Well, I mean, that's why I still had that old version, because I stopped updating as soon as the modern Winamp happened. Because the whole point of Winamp, as we used it at the time, was because it was lightweight, right?
Yeah, super lightweight, yeah.
But as soon as they started the modern version, where it's now it's all fancy, it's well, that's not lightweight any longer, is it?
You could always skin it to be something tiny.
Yeah, but that's not... I don't know. How much does that help, though, is the question.
And I guess that was also in the days before we had multiple monitors. Right?
Well, yeah.
So the fact that you could minimize it to this tiny little bar, and it still be useful.
So anyway, I just decided to use VLC instead. And when you change track, if you're on the desktop, it uses the Windows notifications thing to show the next track's name or whatever.
Oh crap, really? Does it?
Which is sort of
My VLC doesn't do that. But
I mean, that's probably a new Windows 11 thing or whatever.
Maybe.
Or the newest version of VLC or something. Maybe you haven't updated that recently.
Yeah, maybe. That might be true.
But so it pops those up. But there's two problems with that, which is firstly, I mean, that it basically only works if you're looking at the desktop. It doesn't, try and come over anything else. So that's fairly obvious, but fine. But then the other problem is they're really slow. So if you change tack multiple times really quickly, it takes ages to actually catch up.
Oh, of course, because they're just notifications, so they just queue up. They're not actually. Yeah, they needed to have built their own toast engine rather than use the Windows system.
Yes, and then my specific problem with that is that my keyboard no longer I don't know if it ever picked up VLC before. I think it might have done, but my keyboard doesn't pick it up for the LCD display.
Oh, important.
So what's the alternative? What about Fubar 2000 or whatever?
Never heard of it.
That do you?
Well, I mean, the point of using VLC is because obviously you just need VLC for other stuff as well, like videos and whatnot. Might as well have one player that does everything.
What's the Windows player called
it's
now?
It's still fucking awful. It's what it's called. I tried to...
ISFA.
It doesn't even play half of the files that I try to play for it, probably because they're these ancient ass files that I naturally have pulled from 3 PCs ago or whatever. But
do you reckon they Microsoft actually deprecated support for WMA or whatever?
Possibly. Actually, VLC doesn't play some of them. It pops up an error message on some of the track because I'm just using the playlist files that were Winamp playlists, but VLC can open them.
Oh, are they M3Us?
Yeah, I think so.
That's still the playlist format that a lot of stuff uses, yeah.
But yeah, when it tries to play some of the files, it's like, I can't play this. And I'm like, well, I'll maybe go and look at that at some point, but I'm not worried about that right this second. Apart from the time when it errored out and it was it was because the file didn't exist because I was trying to use my SimCity playlist, which had the SimCity 3000 and SimCity 4 music tracks in it.
Oh, they weren't just straight MP3s anyway, were they? Those files?
Yeah, they were.
Oh, okay.
But the reason it didn't work was because I hadn't actually copied the files from SimCity 4 because in that playlist they're linked actually to a SimCity 4 install on my old PC.
The VLC doesn't normally kick up a fuss, right? They would put up a little prompt sometimes saying I couldn't play this.
Well, yeah, it just pops up an error window, but it doesn't take focus. The error window is just there when you go back to look at VLC.
Right, whereas Winamp would just silently skip over it.
Yes. So it's slightly more helpful, I guess.
You know what a solution is? Get Winamp.
I don't want modern Winamp. Even if
I think you should give Fubar 2000 a try. I think that might be the answer for you, Zeg.
But can G15s detect it? that's actually all I care about.
Almost certainly not.
No, exactly.
Can what? What's that?
My keyboard.
Your keyboard.
The Agent Logitech G15.
Good question.
Well, that was the thing, because when VLC popped up those Windows notifications, I was like, so it is sending some kind of notification, just it's a too modern notification for my Agent keyboard tech to pick up on. I did, because I had to fiddle around with VLC to actually get it to detect the media buttons on my keyboard as well. Because when I first installed VLC, they only worked if VLC was in focus for some reason. I was like, well, that's not how that's meant to work. But I eventually figured that out. There was some option you had to toggle to make them global. But those still work. Got to keep my H&S keyboard because it's still the best LCD display there's ever been. Even though I can't use that weird third-party app that someone made that was way better than the default ones any longer. Because it just crashes.
Right.
Because I believe because my PC has too many cores now and it can't handle it when it's trying to display the CPU graph. So it just crashes.
Well, this is some... just looking at Fubar. It's this is some Windows Forms ass... Form. If you like the Forms aesthetic, it's nothing but standard ass Windows Chrome.
Yep. Having Googled, it looks like somebody did make a plugin for the G15 that works with Fubar.
Oh, sweet.
So, yeah. Current version released 6th of October 2023. Yeah.
Wow. Amazing.
I'll just send you that just so you have that available, Zach. Anyway.
And I guess to follow up on this conversation conveniently to something else that happened this week, I ordered a new pair of headphones.
Yay!
Finally. Because, I mean, the previous pair was still totally fine. They were just like kind of manky. I really want there was a point where I was looking to see if I could replace the ear pads, but then it was just like there's no way of you go on Amazon and look at like replacement ear pads. It's like there's no way of telling whether these are going to fit, is there? Like you're going to get some vague measurements and hope that they fit on the exact frame. Unlikely. But I was also looking to get like a pair of headphones that does. I wanted to see if you could get surround, and it turns out that they don't really do that. They just do fake surround now, where they simulate the surround using a trick, basically.
Right.
So I was like, oh, well, fine, I guess I'll get... And also I was just like, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do, what type of headphones I even want, so I'll just buy a random Logitech pair. I'll continue my completely arbitrary Logitech loyalty with my keyboard and mouse and now headphones. And also they were like 50% off, which made them cheap instead of expensive. So I was like, okay, good. So I got those, and it was like, I turned on the fake surround or whatever and went into Derg and was like, this does kind of work, I guess. But the problem is that naturally the Logitech software that runs the fake surround or whatever, because it's got a USB sound card that you have to plug the headphones into, that does the sound processing. And then there's an app that also runs that you can fiddle with the options and whatnot. But that app, it has a built-in equalizer, but the equalizer doesn't fucking work.
Wait, what? Okay.
For some unknown reason. I Googled it and people are like, it doesn't work. And then there's just... Well, mainly there's the... people in the Reddit forum for Logitech, and then the standardized reply of the Logitech response where it's just like, try uninstalling or installing the software. And it's like, well, that doesn't work. And that same reply is on like every one of these threads I was looking at. And then someone was like, you should install these other two programs, and then mysteriously it started working again. To which, classic PC magic going on there. Which was like, I installed two other random things and that fixed the problem.
Right.
But then I decided that I would actually try that. So the actual reason that I was looking at this is because the surround works, but it's like because the equalizer doesn't work, it's just like the bass is so high when you're in surround mode. I was like, this is...
But that's a standard thing with like gaming ish adjacent like headphones anyway, like the ones I'm wearing right now.
But not if you turn it back into stereo. If you turn it back into stereo mode, it sounds pretty much normal.
All right, that's a bit weird. Yeah.
I assume it's because it's basically trying to simulate like a bunch of extra speakers, which is like adding the sound together in some way. And also
maybe.
And also like when you turn it into surround mode, it like has the little simulated speaker layouts where you can change the individual volumes. So I was like, well, if the equalizer doesn't work, maybe I can just turn down the bass channel. But that volume control doesn't seem to do anything either. So I was like, well, fuck.
It's like some missing driver or something?
No, I don't. Like, no one seems to know why this logic... Apparently it worked at some point in the past. Oh. It's like maybe Windows did an update and then Logitech never bothered updating their shit again.
And they never did a decent 11 driver or something, and it's still...
Yeah, maybe.
In half even.
So anyway, that's why I was looking at these forum threads. But then when I got to that friend who was like, I installed these other things. So I installed them both first, but then I like decided to roll back to just one of them because the first one is basically it's basically a global equalizer. So it pre-mixes the sound channel. So I'm just like, I can just have this independent equalizer and then I can just configure it myself there and then that'll fix the problem. And it does, except you because the equalizer is set up to a 7-channel mix. If you then go to the headphone app and turn it back to stereo, it now sounds tinny because it's assuming there's all these extra speakers that the equalizer is trying to account for now. So it's like I can have it either have to have that equalizer off and the stereo mix on the headphones, or the surround in the headphones and then turn that equalizer on. And it's just like, this is annoyingly inconvenient, but leaving it permanently in the surround mode with the equalizer works well enough all the time. Like, I'm happy with that. Except, of course, the whole problem with this is I fucking don't know shit about equalizer, about how to, like, properly edit the equalizer and make it sound good. I'm just guessing, fiddling with it and then playing with it and then being like, does that sound better or worse?
You do it till it sounds good to you.
Yeah.
Or you use a reference, which means you use another pair of headphones and try and match it.
Yeah.
Which, there's no real good way.
But yes, this little equalizer app thing, like, it's probably way more powerful than I need, but, like, it actually has, like, you can make a proper, like, audio stack thing where it's like it does the preamp and then it does the equalization and then it does other modifications.
Sweet.
So I'm like, yeah, this and that it's like, I wish that was just how the headphones worked. I wish their app did that, and then I could not have this other app, but it's fine.
Yeah, I wonder how much additional, because that sounds like a proper Doors like audio chain going on there. Like, I wonder how much latency that adds.
Well, it says basically none, according to its little on-screen display at the bottom. Where it's like the latency is effectively 0, and the processing usage is like 0.1%. Although that's compared to my whole processor, I'm sure. Yeah. But yeah, I fiddled around with it, got that working, and then it's just like, well, I can just have that equalizer, because once you set it up, it just sits there and, it retains all the settings on when you restart the computer or whatever. So it's just, and if you need to turn it off, it actually has just like you can toggle on and off all the individual parts of the audio stack, so you can just.
That's pretty cool.
So I'm like, I guess I'm fine with this solution, I guess.
Get hold of some sweet VSTs, make yourself sound all kinds of weird.
Well, I mean, the thing that we haven't tested with these new headphones yet is how good the mic is.
Right, yeah. Very cool. Is it good enough for stream when we're doing remote videos?
Yes. I mean, I did a self-audio test on it to see whether it was working, but, like, that's not... you can't tell what your self sounds like through headphones.
I mean...
And it has a bunch of built-in... The equalizer part that does work is the microphone equalizer. Like, it has a whole bunch of... I guess it's not really an equalizer as such. It's more like output editing, sponsored by Blue or like Blue Technology or whatever. But yeah, you can turn that on and like fuck around with all the output channel.
I mean, if it does end up being still rubbish, I have still got a condenser mic you can have, like the tabletop mic.
Well, I'm sure it won't matter too much for those rare times that we do a remote recording. And it probably can't really be any worse than the previous one. Which was fine.
I mean, it's all right. Not studio grade.
Well, no, obviously.
In fairness, neither of these really, but they sound good enough. I hope they sound good to you, listener.
And then while I was on Amazon, I also ordered a new calculator.
Sorry, what?
Because as I've mentioned before on the podcast, when I want to do calculations, I prefer to have an actual calculator rather than trying to use Windows or whatever.
Well, I suppose I was about to say, or your phone, and then I remembered your phone.
Well, that wouldn't be great either. Like, yeah, I want a physical calculator with actual buttons and a proper display.
Are you going to get like a desktop one, with the display's angled up towards you?
No, didn't go quite that ridiculous.
Oh. Is it a Texas Instruments?
No, it's a Sharp, like my previous one.
Okay.
Well, the thing was, like, the calculator I was using previously was a calculator that I've had since school, obviously.
Right, yeah. But the new ones are the same, aren't they?
Yes, but the new ones are basically the same. So the reason I even had to get a new calculator was because the screen on this one had started, like, the LCD was leaking.
Oh, okay.
Which actually wasn't that bad. There was just like one precise line that basically eliminated one of the decimal places, which made it difficult to tell when a number gets to a certain length. You can't tell whether it's a decimal place or not because that precise spot on the screen doesn't work.
I was sort of thinking to myself that I don't know if I would 100% be able to use an old calculator anymore. Like, I may have forgotten the sequence in which you're supposed to do things in order to get the numbers to come out right. Little things.
Well, I mean, that was
or shift into the other functions or whatever. Like, because I seem to remember my old TI calculator had like 3 different shifts you could do or something to get to different functions.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was the trick with the old calculator I had, because this was almost new technology at the time, but they had the equation line editor above the result line where you could see the actual your actual input or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think I had that.
But yeah, so I ordered this new calculator, which, looking at the Amazon listing, is like, this seems to be the current version of that old calculator. So I ordered it. So the reason I wanted to get an exact duplicate as this one is because it has that like equation editor line, which is like small. It's like pixel.
Right. Yeah, instead of
LCD.
7 segments.
Except obviously it's still on the LCD display. But then it had that, but then it also had a regular LCD line, which makes the actual output line more readable, and then the little LCD line above it for the actual equation or whatever. So I wanted to get another one like that. So I went and looked at the thing and was like, yeah, this seems to be that. And I ordered it and they sent me the wrong one.
Right.
But it seems like the one they sent me is actually better, except it doesn't have that. It's just a full... It's not a scientific calculator, but it's got a full dot matrix style screen. But it still has, the functions that I need.
Have we not got to the point where like screen tech is like for what you need to put in a calculator is just cheap enough that they would just put like a 3DS screen and something equivalent to a DS or a Game Boy or something screen on it?
I think it's more about power usage though, right?
I guess those would draw quite a bit of juice, but
you want it to last fucking forever. Like I think
but then you could just put a USB charged battery supply in them now. Sure. Like, it's not expensive.
Maybe they could use an e-ink display and then they could stay on forever.
I guess.
Forever, right?
Sure. They don't refresh very quick as you type.
No, but fast enough. Well, maybe not.
I mean, I think that calculator that was on the previous calculator, I think that was maybe the second time ever I'd replaced its batteries. Like, I think in the last 30 years or whatever, I think it had gone through about 2 batteries.
Yeah, they are pretty amazing.
Although that calculator was quite chunky and it did run on actual AA, not watch battery or anything. It was quite fat.
Yeah, it is fat. Man, I remember one of the most satisfying to do with school scientific calculators is just slide it in and out of that case.
Yep.
Yeah, in and out of the case.
Just all as some of them had a real nice click to it.
Yep, this one.
We had those crazy ones, graphing ones that had flipped over.
I think I've still got that one.
Oh, really?
I've still got my old graphing calculator. I don't know whether it works.
Dan, maybe you'll remember these, but I'm sure there were a few of these absolutely monstrous devices that Ipswich School had when we were there that looked a bit like a Steam Deck. They were friggin' huge.
Really?
With buttons everywhere and a cursor on it, and you could use them to do full graphing and stuff. But
cool. I don't think I ever got a chance to use those.
I don't know that they could play Doom.
I bet they probably could.
That's the test. Probably. And then there must be a port of Doom to the BBC Micro that we had.
I don't know, actually. Can it Doom? You can hear the faint sounds of Dad looking it up in the background.
Taking it out. Well, obviously, I don't know.
There must surely...
Doom runs on Acorn's BBC Master on an ARM second processor. Well, that's cheating.
Yeah, if you get a co-processor involved, that's not...
Yeah, no. Well, you can play Elite on them anyway. That's the key thing.
Surely there must be just a classic old school website of just does it run Doom.com or something, where it's just a full list of every single thing that has ever managed to run Doom.
That must exist.
You would think so.
Yeah.
There's definitely a subreddit for
you sure?
It, isn't there? Because it's
but that's not as cool as a classic old school website.
Website, yeah.
Will it Doom? I'd watch that show.
I don't think you would, though, because I don't think... would that show be even consisting of?
Well, you'd just be increasingly weird devices in the process of getting Doom running on it, and then they go, yeah, it dooms.
How would you be able to prove it was real?
Well, I guess you wouldn't.
No.
The website is called canitrundoom.org.
Okay, good.
This has been a public service announcement.
I suspected it would be something obvious like that.
Well, it's here running on a Texas Instruments graphic calculator, but this is a much newer one with a color screen. So I don't think the one we had, yeah.
So that's my new hardware situation, I guess.
I suppose I bought some headphones. I don't know if I talked about those on the podcast. bought myself some studio reference headphones.
Oh yeah, because you finally got your work discount to go through.
Yeah, so I suppose big caveat. I got a hefty discount on these through the group I work for, but I've got myself some Audix A150 studio reference headphones, and they my personal review is they kick ass.
Nice.
They are really very nice indeed. I needed a set basically because with Badger in the mix here at home, people are at home more than they used to be. So me having time to actually like turn the speakers on and do some audio work is I could do it, but it's a little disruptive to others. So I get a bit self-conscious about doing music work. Never shy. Anyway, especially while it's in progress, right? It sounds like a train wreck while you're working. Yeah, while you're starting on something. Anyway, so I bought these not only to have something that is reliable and decent to work with whilst doing audio work, but also it's sort of basically test whether the monitors in this room sounded correct, because obviously like proper speaker monitors, like they are very room dependent on how the sound actually comes out. And I had noticed a little while back that if I sat at my desk at the normal position, it would sound one way, and then as I rolled the chair back in the room, it basically becomes a massive bass trap, and the bass level becomes much higher just by leaning back in your chair or rolling back a couple of feet. It would sound way bassier. So I didn't actually really know if I was mixing correctly or mastering correctly once I discovered that. So I put these... these reference headphones have at least let me prove where my correct head position needs to be if I'm using the speakers. And as it turns out, fortunately, it's sat at the desk normally. The bass trap was in fact a exaggeration of where the mix was. So that's quite nice, because that means I can still sit comfortably at the desk and not have to keep moving around to get an accurate representation of what I'm hearing. But yeah, no, these reference headphones are good. They're not like a gamer headset, or like normal Bose headphones or Beats headphones where they do some magic to try and make them sound good. It's none of that. They're proper monitors, so it's flat response.
Yeah, flat response. Okay.
And I think I've just got used to that sound, right? That flat response sound. So like I put them on and played some music, and I was like, these immediately sound good. And it's and that's not really the reaction you're supposed to have with monitors. So I think I've just got used to that. I did also wash my car the other day whilst wearing a pair of Galaxy Buds. One of them fell out into the bucket.
Actually.
God damn it. My ears are so stupid. Just pods and inner earphones just have never really properly sat in them ever. Oh. They just always fall out a little bit, and I'm constantly like pushing them back in. But of course, like modern pods have like touch on them, right? So whenever I push them back into my ears, I trigger something. Like I pause the podcast or bit of music I'm listening to instead of it just go, I'm just wedging it in my ear. Please don't. Oh, right. The pod was fine, by the way. Like it took on some water and some soapy water at that. It's probably waxy water at that point. It's fine. Good job. Good job, Galaxy Buds. They survived a Duncan.
Are they water? That's impressive.
I don't know if it's intentionally water resistant or not. I've got absolutely no idea, but because I guess they could be in your ear while it's raining, right? They've got to have...
Yeah, I guess.
Well, I don't think they're necessarily designed for a Duncan.
No.
But they're still good. I mean, those sound pretty good as well. They're made by AKG, the Samsung stuff. Or I think Samsung may own AKG. I don't know. But yeah, they've always sounded pretty good to me. Can recommend if they stay in your ear. There you go. That's my headphone story.
Oh, yeah. I just remember the one other important thing about my headphones. The other reason I had to buy this specific pair is because they have a what do you call it? Velour. like pad instead of a leverette.
Oh, okay.
Because I fucking hate leverette pads so much.
Well, it's a good thing those ones have worn down.
Yes, these ones are just about bearable by being real old and skaggy.
Skaggy they are.
But yeah, I had to get ones with like non-leverette pads because it's just like I hate those so much. I mean, this pair of headphones actually comes with both, so you can swap them.
That's kind of cool.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
Which also means that I guess it will last twice as long because once you've used up one of them, you're like, well, I guess I'll use the other one then.
Yeah. Point. I've got another pair of the one pair of headphones I have with noise cancelling on. The pads for those are absolutely falling apart. I need to get some replacements. I have a lot of pairs of headphones, as it turns out.
Yes.
I had some of those classic Sony monitor headphones, that you see.
Oh, right. Yes.
You see around. And I think they had leatherette pads, but I actually replaced them with a different brand's pads that were velour or whatever, but they fitted perfectly. I think it was like a known thing that this other, I can't even remember what the other brand was, but the pads were interchangeable with the Sony ones.
Nice.
So yeah, I totally agree.
I mean, I don't understand why people think leatherette is a good idea. It just makes your head sweat.
Yeah, it's not so bad. Like this, I can't remember the brand of what are they Kingstons? Can you see?
They're HyperX, aren't they?
HyperX, yes, that's it. Yeah.
Because I was looking at some of them as well.
Yeah, the cloud something revolver.
Yeah,
number jiggery pokery X. Because I've worn these for pretty long periods of time before, and these are the leatherette style, and yeah, okay, I guess I could feel a little heat in here, but I don't think it's terrible. Like the thing that's like probably the worst part of these this headset is the fact that like you just find little. I haven't had them that long, I suppose a few years now, but the leatherette is peeling.
Well, that is the other big problem with the leatherette, is they always disintegrate in the most gross way possible. Yeah, you're finding bits of black crap all over the place.
It's the band on top of my head that's peeling. Like the ears are fine, but it's the band that sits on top, and that's made of the same stuff or crapper stuff. I don't know. So yeah, every now and then I just find these like it's like black dandruff just hanging out, and I'm like, well, that's a bit weird. That just came off my head. Oh, the headphones, right?
Maybe that's the conspiracy theory scam of headphones. They deliberately make leatherette because it's crap and it wears out super quick, so you have to buy new headphones because it's such a pain in the ass to replace the pads.
A sort of planned obsolescence thing. Beautiful.
Because I can tell you, I wore the last pair of headphones, those pads were real skank and those were not leatherette, and I wore them down pretty much as it was possible to. Way longer than leatherette would have lasted, that's for sure.
Is it even leatherette?
What they call it.
Yeah.
I'm sure it's obviously not anything to do with leather in any way.
It's not vegan leather.
100% pure artificial crap.
I suppose it is vegan leather, though.
Yes.
But
well, maybe.
Just not what they want you to think vegan leather is. Headphone minute.
Yep. That was the hardware segment.
Should we get into news then?
I guess.
We've got a few things this week.
Somewhat.
Do we want to talk about TV I watched?
Do we?
TV section?
No, we don't have to. I just finished Loki season 2, that was all.
Oh, yeah, I watched. That's one thing I actually have watched. So.
I mean, it's pretty rad. Like I enjoyed it quite a bit, but also, they pulled quite an anime ending, is how I would describe.
Yeah,
how
it was
that
pretty
show
anime.
Ends.
I would agree. Yeah,
the entire world ended, get turned into a giant egg, and then get reborn.
I mean, not far off it, honestly.
That's your classic anime ending.
Yeah, not far off. It's one of those endings where they do the thing where like let's have a bunch of flashy stuff happen, but not actually explicitly explain it. So
that is also a very anime ending.
Yeah, so you're then left to sort of just be like, okay, I think it's this. I think this just happened. Did that just happen? Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I think that happened.
Because it's not. I mean, I don't think this is possibly a spoiler because you'd have to know a lot. But like you said, is it the world, Zach? But it's the world tree. It's Yggdrasil, right? Because
exactly.
It's Norse mythology because it's Loki, right? Makes sense.
But
you have to know
that
the world.
Right?
They never say that either.
No, they never say it.
They just use the imagery of it, and it's or what he's even doing in that moment. It's all a bit like, oh, I could just do this. But anyway, yeah, I thought it was cool.
Yeah, it's not clear. Yeah, it's very anime.
There's a lot about. I mean, there's a few moments in that season that really bother me in the sense that like they did some stuff and there's some lines associated to those moments where it feels like they're setting up for something else that they then never come back to, or those small hooks that they could use for season 3 because they haven't necessarily said that they're done with this yet.
But I think some of it was supposed to lead into whatever Avengers.
Oh film, yeah. It's all a big setup for whatever the current phase is.
Yeah, but now they're having to retool that because the actor's cancelled, right?
They'll just recast him.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think they're too invested.
I think that is the sensible thing to do.
Yeah, just.
But whether they'll do that, I don't know.
I mean, it's not the first time they've recast characters in Marvel.
No, I guess they did.
War Machine, Rhodesy is the obvious one. I mean, there's been 3 different Cassie Langs at this point. Ant-Man's daughter. I'm trying to think. Yeah. There are definitely more, but I can't think of them off the top of my head. There's quite a few.
This would be a very awkward one, though, given the
given the prominence. Yeah, it's a little more noticeable than some of the others.
Just do some random comic book bullshit where he gets hit by a gamma beam or something and it fucks him up in a way that makes him look completely different.
Sure. I mean, they'd have to do that like 50 million times. And actually, like, some of them do already look different, right? Because of the variance thing. And we've seen them already.
Well, that makes it easier, though. You kill off the original and just have a replacement from an alternate timeline come in.
Well, Thanos himself they changed, right? Because they didn't have an actor for him when they first started teasing him. So when they started using Josh Brolin's face, it's like his whole image changed.
Yeah, but it was just little teasers, right?
Sure, yeah.
It wasn't like a whole TV show.
Yeah, you're right. It wasn't a role at that point.
Yeah. But in and of itself, I thought it was still enjoyable. Maybe not as much as the first season, but
yeah, it's messier, but in some ways more interesting in some ways.
I like that they took the actual real world concept of spaghettification and then visualized it with CGI.
Yes, yeah, those are some pretty cool effects. Pretty terrifying in places, but pretty cool. Anyway, yeah, Loki. It's like, I mean, I think for once, I think I'm getting there, right? We've talked about everyone talks about superhero fatigue, the Marvel fatigue, or the Star Wars fatigue, whatever. It's like, yeah, I might be getting there, or they just need to, or Disney just need to pump the brakes a little bit. Like, it's the same problem that Star Wars has. I think they just need to slow down a bit and focus on quality over quantity a touch, because Loki has been fine, but I wouldn't necessarily say that quality carries over everything they're doing.
I would be okay if 1/4 or maybe 1/5 of Marvel or Star Wars content was really good and the rest I could skip. But it doesn't seem like there's
they want to tie everything
quality
together,
quarter is coming up. I don't think there's anything new from either of those franchises on the way that looks good.
I mean, the next Andor, surely.
Yeah, I guess that's okay. That's it then. Andor season 2. That's the one thing.
Yeah, but I'm out of Marvel to be excited about. Oh, I suppose there's Fantastic Four. Get hype.
That's only a hype in the ironic sense of being like every time they've tried this, it's been bad.
It's not gone well, has it? No.
How many times are they going to foolishly try and make a Fantastic Four and then get shit on?
Marvel Studios have never tried.
No,
maybe they can do the impossible.
This is the one time Disney have had it. Yeah, Marvel Studios / Disney have had a go. It's not Fox anymore, right? And I guess when they do eventually get around to doing the X-Men proper, I might be in for that, right? There's potential for that to be rad.
I don't know if, because the way they're building up to it is relying on nostalgia for the Fox X-Men a bit too much.
A little. I think they're going to keep this new Deadpool thing. This new Deadpool thing is going to probably stay completely separate, right? And it's not like they haven't done crossovers before, right? Like Pietro from is it? No, not Pietro. I forget what they called it, but the Quicksilver from the Fox X-Men films turned up in WandaVision, right?
That was so weird. Yeah,
I mean, that was cool.
It was way cool when it was revealed, and then nothing really happened with it.
No, nothing happened with it at all. But it was a neat little touch, and I think they're going to keep the Fox stuff at arm's length, even with Deadpool and Wolverine, like not far away. I think that's just the approach they're going to take. And I kind of hope that's the approach they should take. They should start totally fresh. I mean, they're implying.
That's what I mean.
They're implying from Ms. Marvel, right, that mutants are only just beginning. Like that they're only just starting to know, because they there's a line in that where they notice that the Ms. Marvel's genes are a little different, that there's a mutation, and then there's a little music sting when they say that. There's in the background.
Someone's ringtone.
Yeah. So I think they're hinting that like mutations are only just really sort of entering the picture, which is a bit weird given, you know, they used Quicksilver, who was technically a mutant, but not a mutant in the MCU version, because he was infused with the power of one of the stones or whatever. They changed him, but I don't know. X-Men could be cool.
Okay, you convinced me. Maybe there's something at some point in the next 5 years that might be good.
The trouble with X-Men, though, is like it's redundant in a superhero universe, right? Because like it's just like the comparison between like regular humans and superheroes. Like mutants aren't really that much further up the scale.
Well, that was how they always kind of did it
in the middle,
for the X-Men comic, was that like the X-Men world was kind of half apart from the rest of the superhero world, and then while they did cross over, you had to sort of kind of imagine that they were in a separate world where it was mutants that were important, not superheroes.
Yeah.
Well, I think they can get away with doing like things like that by doing the thing that they are always the MCU seems totally reluctant on doing these days, which is tone it down a bit.
You can't. You can never tone it down. Always increase.
Yeah, that's not.
Always increase until you destroy the entire universe and reset everything.
Well, kind of, yeah, but they were good at that for a while. They, like, you know, when they did the introduction of new characters into they would often start with with a smaller scale film. Ant-Man being the obvious one, right? That is a relatively small scale story in the grand scheme of things. No, and I'm not saying that as a pun either. I just realized what I just said. Like, that was unintentional.
Sure.
But those like slightly lower stakes, slightly more personable storylines are actually some of their best, right?
Yeah, sure.
They do a better job when it's not about the entire world blowing up.
But that's almost why you would want the X-Men to be in a separate universe, because then they could have that scale of story all the time, because the X-Men aren't designed for fighting Galactus or whatever.
Yeah, well, exactly. I'm hoping that's what they do. I hope they keep it a little like the cartoon was, I guess. Like that wasn't always about world-ending catastrophes.
I don't know. I don't think you can combine them together into one like film or whatever without it either having to scale everyone up to the same level or it being really completely pointless that they're even there.
Yeah, I don't know how they fit into the grand plan, so to speak. The bigger scale MCU. That's a much harder problem, given where the rest of the MCU is right now. That's yeah, I agree with that. I think that's difficult, but maybe they won't bother. And that would probably be wise.
I guess Professor X is always useful, regardless of the power context.
Who would you replace? Who would you get to do be Patrick Stewart, basically?
Obviously.
Who would you get to be him these days? Because I mean, he can't be. I
literally just thought Jason Statham because it'd be funny.
Oh, that would be the best. You imagine, like he wouldn't have to move. He'd just be sat in the chair, and he would have that accent the entire time.
That's the new Professor X.
That would be so funny. I heard Vinnie Jones said he's not going to return as Juggernaut.
No.
one of the least X-Men to start with. He's just a big dude.
Big dude.
He's basically just Hulk, isn't he?
Yeah, pretty much.
Who can easily be replaced by the Kool-Aid Man.
That'd be funny.
Oh, yeah. That'd be so good.
Anyway, sorry. That was my movie thought moment.
Okay. Now we've covered all the superhero side of pop culture. Let's get into the video game side. What's been going on news-wise? Where's the news?
Well, which way around do you want to do this? Do you want to do the Xbox Partner Showcase first, or should we do probably all the bad news stuff first?
There's not much to say about the Xbox thing, I don't think, is there?
No, these aren't, I wouldn't call these...
I mean, obviously, partner means it's all the other games that aren't necessarily the ones that you would hope to see from Xbox.
Sure.
But them having any games at all is a start.
Yeah. I mean, it was quite good. It was just like they just stayed out of the way. There was no like spoken stuff that was just like, here's a bunch of trailers. We're just going to rattle them off. Here you go. Which is, gets the job done quickly, I guess. So I'm not going to cover all of these, everything that they did. I'm not even going to cover all the ones I wrote down, I think. Partly because I wrote down Unknown 9 because I remember it being interesting, but now I can't remember a thing about it.
So it wasn't, apparently.
Yeah, not memorable enough. Other than it's called Unknown 9. I don't know. Next one they didn't really say what kind of game it was, but I'm feeling it's probably going to be some kind of arcane immersive sim. But what if it was a bit film noir, but you're actually a card-throwing witch? I don't know. It sounds like it could be like, it basically sounds like Dishonored, but they're just throwing a slightly more comical slant to it.
It's okay.
But there wasn't actually any actual gameplay in that trailer. It was just a thing. That will be coming to Game Pass. Small note, quite a large number of the games that were in this thing were not tagged as Game Pass games, which is fair. But also, I'm sort of sometimes a little bit surprised that Microsoft should use these events to really push Game Pass. Surely that's in their interest to do that.
Well, they do that at their real ones when it's their own stuff. Where everything is started by going to Game Pass or whatever.
Sure. Exclusive on Xbox, coming to Game Pass. I don't know why I got a bit southern there as that voice went on. So there's that. We got I don't think we really learned anything new, but they're just a reminder that game, The Alters, is coming relatively soon. That is also coming to Game Pass.
I've been getting adverts for that on YouTube continuously, so
yeah,
that's been really annoying.
I can't decide if that game is actually cool or not. Like,
I don't even really know what it's meant to be. So, like, it looks like the XCOM 2D base building thing.
Yeah,
and they clearly have assigned people to jobs or whatever.
Yes, but those people are you.
Yes,
just the game's whole thing is like, okay, it's a survival game. You're stuck on a planet, so you're having to go around this environment to find stuff to do, I guess,
But what is the gameplay? That's the bit that I can't tell.
But yeah,
from these adverts.
And there's management inside the ant nest, right? On this giant bicycle wheel. So that's why the base is 2D, because it's all in a flat plane.
Yeah.
Inside this giant wheel. But because you're on your own and the wheel is designed to have lots of people running it, you might find a way to summon alternate timeline versions of yourself into this timeline to help. With all the baggage that brings, that's the premise. So a whole bunch of internal. I reckon it's like actually quite scripted would be my guess, and that there is a narrative thread and like an order to which things play out. That it's actually quite the illusion of freedom, but it's actually a pretty linear experience. Is my guess.
That hasn't answered the actual question of what you do, though.
Not really, no.
Like, you can make an XCOM base, but then where's the XCOM half of the game?
Well, I think that's you being out of the base, right?
Yeah, but then what are you doing? You're just walking around and looking at shit.
Yeah, probably.
I mean, I guess that could work.
Or building stuff that you then use outside the thing in order to like free up the route for the wheel. I think you're trying to get the wheel somewhere, right? And so it's like you're going through the environment to get the wheel where it needs to go. anyway, they made it sound like it's coming soon, but they didn't chuck a date on it. So
considering how much advertising there's been, presumably
pretty soon. Yeah. Slight bit of interest here is like, I think this might be the first time like an official presentation actually used the term shadow drop, because they tagged the re-release of the Stalker trilogy on Xbox.
Yes, but did they tag it, or did the people who made the thing?
No. It was Microsoft themselves put a little sticker on their recap page saying shadow drop.
Okay.
To which if you follow Kyle Bosman, ex Easy Ally, he picked up on that and was like, it's fun to think Microsoft are using a term that Easy Allies coined about a decade ago. It's like,
well, that's how terms get coined.
Yeah. Shout out to Kyle Bosman.
I heard the other day that the term mullet for the hairstyle actually was coined by the Beastie Boys.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah. And their song Mullet Heads, taking the piss out of people with mullets, they invented it.
Why?
That doesn't seem possible. Otherwise, how would you ask to get their haircut before that point?
Yeah, what was it called before people started getting it?
I think it was called like hockey player hair or something.
Hockey hair.
I don't know.
Isn't a mullet a fish? Anyway, like why would the Beastie Boys make a fish reference?
Wait, does the fish look like the hairstyle in some way?
I mean, maybe it must. Yeah,
I don't know, maybe.
Do fish have hair?
They're very trout.
They're bearing trout too.
Big ones. Giant fur-bearing trout.
That's the ultimate cryptid, isn't it? The fur-bearing trout. Surprised they weren't in Deus Ex.
But they wouldn't have been able to render the hair at the time, so they obviously can't put that in that game.
Throw some Tress effects at it.
It was far too early for Tress effects.
Anyway, those Stalker games are now available on Xbox. That was the whole thing. It was just like, oh, they're just using the phrase shadow drop. That's interesting. Weirdest trailer goes to Monster Jam Showdown, and I'm saying weird because hey, how often is it that a racing game gets a trailer in one of these things? Let alone something that looks a little, I'm going to call it B tier, something that doesn't look quite up there with the big boys, and it's a monster truck racing game. You know, it's a bit strange.
Well, it's Microsoft, you know. You got the.
It's not. I don't think it's Microsoft made. I don't think it's Microsoft.
No, that's what I mean, though. But they have to. They still have to rep the monster trucks because they were the ones that did it. They're like, oh, look, someone else is doing monster trucks. Well, obviously, we have to give them a spot on that list.
And also, this would feel like the perfect sort of like tier for a Game Pass game, but it wasn't tagged with Game Pass, and it's like, all right, you think your monster truck game is all that, huh?
Where you think your monster truck game is worth like £10 and comes out on Steam? Yes, maybe.
Well, maybe.
Or Microsoft Store, I guess.
Maybe.
Or both, more likely.
And finally, the thing I picked up was again something we've seen before, but we got to see a little more footage of, which is Tales of Kenzara Zao, which I think they're trying to make Tales of Kenzara like a universe thing. Like
never a good idea.
And Zao is the first game in this. But it caught my attention because it looks quite a bit like Outland, like one of my favorite things that Housemarque put out. The sort of doesn't have all the like Ikaruga style bullet switching that Outland had, but it does still have the duality thing going on a little bit. There are two masks that you wear, and you have to switch between them in the middle of like platforming maneuvers in order to get stuff done and get where you need to go. Yeah, caught my eye a little bit. That's it's reminiscent, shall we say? Shout out to Outland, by the way, super underrated. I know I do that every time we mention it, but it's a great game. And that was what I picked out from the Xbox Partner Showcase. I think there was like Dragon's Dogma 2 turned up and some other things, but like, I mean, they look like games. You know, just that. Nothing really interesting to say about them. They look like games. So there's that. In other news, Nintendo has managed to kill an emulator.
Oh, wow. Again.
What's the latest victim?
Has it happened before? Like, properly, like, removed
Pretty much. I mean, like, they've ceased and desisted all kinds of shit over the years. I mean, I guess this was the most, like, fully featured, like, the highest profile, I guess.
Yeah, they have. I don't know if Nintendo have ever really, like, been able to 100% end an emulator before. Like Dolphin came under fire, right? The GameCube and Wii emulator because of its use of Wii stuff. But I think they got away with that. Like, Dolphin's still about.
Yeah, I guess.
Yuzu, on the other hand, the Nintendo Switch emulator and the pretty accomplished Switch emulator at that, did not survive. So within 24 hours of Nintendo going, "Oi, you've been served, son," Yuzu folded and we're just like, "Okay, we're not fighting this. We are deleting all our code. We are, or at least removing it from GitHub. We are capitulating. We are paying damages to Nintendo. They have backed away running, which it's hard to know if that's the smart move or if that's a dangerous precedent for the emulation community.
Well, I think the obvious problem with
Yuzu has a lot of obvious problems.
Well, okay, one of the obvious problems is that it's emulating a current system.
Yeah, that is
the one obvious. If they've waited approximately one more year, they might be fine.
that is the biggie. Nintendo's case basically centered around Tears of the Kingdom, and the fact that thing was able to play leaked copies of Tears of the Kingdom before the game came out, which is clear piracy, right? At that point, it's not even subtle.
Is it though? Because it hadn't been released yet, so you weren't denying a sale. I'm not actually arguing that. That was just a funny semantic thing.
I mean, I guess, yeah, but also no. It's both. Yeah. So Yuzu, it's I'm. It's hard to defend them. I do know people.
I mean, they must have seen it coming a mile off. So why? I don't know. Yeah, they much effort into something that you know is going to get shut down. I don't know.
Here's the thing. I reckon it will get resurrected in some other form later. Like that code we won't be able to necessarily find it online, but that community will still have it. Those devs will still have it. They might not be able to use it in its current form, but they can use all the lessons to build something. Maybe a decade from now, something or some safe
at least
period
one
of time.
more year. Once the Switch is no longer the current system.
Yeah, some safe period of time later. It'll be risky, right? Because they will have to rewrite from scratch because Nintendo's lawyers will be watching it like a hawk and be like, if you've reused any of this, that's going to be more lawsuits will come.
Run it through an AI, and you'll be fine.
You can't stop us. I'm not. Well, by us, I'm not. I don't write emulators, but
you do use them though.
Yeah, I do use them. Mostly legitimately, in fairness, these days.
Sure.
I own most of the stuff.
Yes,
almost all the stuff for emulate. Actually, I've got better. I've seen the light. No, it's fine. There's just some stuff you can't get hold of these days, and it's like that's where emulation should come in. Preservation and all that jazz. I'm all for it. Anywho, bound to happen. Yuzu is dead. In other Nintendo news, leaks suggest that the Switch 2 will not come out in 2024, and that it has been quote-unquote delayed until 2025. And well, perhaps I should say not quote unquote. That's probably like finger quotes, right? The word delayed, because there's been no announcement. Like, how do you know how do we know if this was delayed or not? We don't. Like, maybe 2025 was the target date all along. But everyone thought at this point that 2024 was the absolute shoe-in, right?
Well, everyone thought they were going to announce it in 2022, and it never happened.
And last year, it's just it keeps going and going, but. I guess the takeaway is don't get hyped for Switch 2 just yet.
Well, I mean, my assumption was always that when they actually do announce it, when Nintendo actually for real actually says it, it's going to be approximately a year before it actually comes out. So the fact that we're in 2024 now, they still haven't said anything, means it can't come out until 2025.
I don't remember the Switch, as we were talking about before the cast. I don't remember the Switch cycle being that long.
Well,
from rooftop party to release, I want to say it was like 6 months.
Well, but the thing is that, like, even if it wasn't as long, it still was technically a different year.
Sure, yeah,
because it came out in March, so it was like they would have announced it in the previous year.
Indeed, yeah. And by the time it comes out, it'll probably be like 2 generations of mobile chips old.
Well, sure.
You know.
I guess the thing about Switch 2 is that, like, we still don't actually know really anything about it, but, like, theoretically, you'd think that it's not going to be, you know, as difficult for them to make. Like, it shouldn't have had as much effort to develop because it's theoretically just an upgraded Switch.
You'd think, and Nvidia's basically had new chipsets ready to go pretty much from when the Switch launched,
like the one that they just barely missed, pretty much.
Yeah, that's my only problem with any kind of delay to Switch 2 is, like, you know, it will be the same. It won't be like they delay it to add something slightly more cutting edge in terms of the chip. I wouldn't have thought. Maybe they would.
No, I doubt it.
More likely, you just have a slightly more out of date chip when it releases.
Yeah. I mean, the cynic in me is like, oh, maybe by leaving it that little bit longer, they negotiated a slightly cheaper deal for older chips, or
I guess if they fall one extra generation behind on the current chips, then they get cheaper. That makes sense.
Some economy of scale thing that they're.
Although I suppose that at a certain point you get the inversion of that, where they're like they need to retool all their manufacturing so they can no longer make those chips, and then they become more expensive again because you're forcing them to keep those machines set up.
Okay. So I'm just looking up the timeline of this just to make sure we got this right. So we knew of NX. Do you remember it was referred to as 2 years prior? We knew that there was something in the works that
doesn't really count. But...
Doesn't because we've known about Switch 2 existing for quite some time now.
For a certain definition of no, yes.
Well, I think it's been over a year since we've had reports that devs have had dev kits, right? And early access to things, and Nintendo have been doing behind closed doors demos of what Switch 2 will be. Stuff like that. What else is? I can't speed read this wiki fast enough. It was April 2016, and it's when they
very nearly a whole year then.
Yeah, very nearly a whole year. Okay, so I was wrong.
Okay.
But I don't think they released, according to that, they were still calling it NX at that point. They hadn't given it the name Switch. So that might have not been the official
wasn't the first Switch thing.
But Nintendo at that point had actually said, it's like, no, there'll be something new at this point.
Right.
So which they haven't done this time. So that might not be anything to go by.
No, I mean, this whole situation is kind of weird at this point.
So they could still announce it imminently, and it will still be next year. Q1 next year.
Yeah.
That's what I'm kind of expecting at this point.
Sounds pretty reasonable. Or maybe they'll leave it to, like, E3 time. Or whatever we're calling it these days.
I mean,
Summer Game Fest, is that the name we're going to have to adopt?
We're still waiting for Nintendo to actually do a thing this year, after they did do one in January.
Sure. They've only done, like, the indie and partner showcase, right?
Yes, which doesn't count.
No.
Maybe they'll do, well, I guess we've got a few more days. Maybe they'll do a Switch anniversary stream, essentially, to announce the next thing.
Oh, maybe.
Mid-March-ish.
Reckon they'll do it like a... No, I was about to say, they'll do like a Princess Peach direct.
They might.
You reckon?
Peach.
I baked a cake.
They might do.
Oh man, there better be a chef outfit. She better bake a cake, for real.
She does. She does. I'm pretty sure. She's a patisserie chef or something. It's part of the gameplay, I'm sure.
Yeah, I think I remember that.
I don't remember that.
But then I'm also wondering if I'm having a fever dream and just like merging some Mario Party shit in there or something.
I think she does that, and she's a ninja.
Well, yes.
Yes.
I've seen the ninja
and a
one.
pirate.
And a pirate, yeah.
And a mermaid for some reason.
Yeah.
Water level. You gotta have water level.
I know, I hope it's not a water level.
Well, it's just really inconvenient.
Yeah. You just Goldine around a bit. That'd be funny. The Super Mario movie is getting a sequel in 2026.
And Knuckles.
Oh, yep. I mean, Mario and Sonic do a movie.
No, it's probably going to be like the Luigi movie, obviously.
Oh, yes. I'd be into that.
Yeah, with Charlie Day as Luigi. Yeah.
Still haven't seen the first one, in fairness, so I don't know how much I would
Yeah, you don't actually know whether you'd be into that or not.
As long as I get a death stare out of it at some point.
Luigi
death stare.
I want them to have fully voiced Egad. Who are they going to get to play that?
The same guy. Short Round. They'll get Short Round. Or Ouroboros from Loki. They'll get him to do it because he rocks.
Okie dokie, Dr. Jones.
Warner Brothers Games are continuing to pursue live service, apparently, because Suicide Squad wasn't enough of a disaster for them. I mean, is this just a thing that investors say to other or CEOs say to investors because they've got to dangle the carrot of we're going to have a perpetual money machine. We want to be Fortnite, guys.
Or they're trying to downplay how shit it was by pretending that they think it's still a good idea.
Presumably, you can make enough money out of Fortnite to make it worth developing multi-million-dollar duds for the. Presumably, it is worth it to occasionally get a Fortnite, right? That must be. They're not stupid, these people.
No,
right?
that must be. I'm guessing that's the thinking, right? That they know that they're not everything's going to hit. They just have to keep going until something lands.
But Fortnite is a different model than well, not really, but Fortnite leans more heavily into microtransactions than season pass. Well, no, I guess it has
season
pass. It has a season pass, but it was based more on the microtransaction end before the season pass.
It also just straight up has a different subscription now as well, that through season passes and V-Bucks your way.
Well, that's just a package, though.
Yeah, it's kind of a bundle deal, but you basically it's a fixed price every month. You can just have that now if you want.
But I don't think that's even really what you mean when you say live service any longer. It's almost the microtransactions and season pass things have almost become those are just automatically. It's what you're actually saying is it's a game that you're going to continue developing for a long time. It's it's not really about the monetization any longer. Everyone just assumes that that's going to work.
I know, but the monetization is key. Otherwise, they wouldn't do it.
They wouldn't develop.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. It's I'm saying that they just assume that the monetization is just going to work because they it just does on some level for all of these games.
Sometimes it doesn't, right? Clearly.
Sure. I mean, you only have to
presumably they know that, and they're still going to try.
The game has to hit big as a game, and then the monetization just sort of comes, right? Because you're always going to get people spending that money on
what's in the middle there. I would say maybe Sea of Thieves wasn't a gigantic hit, but it obviously made enough to continue as a live service game to the point where now they can release it.
Yeah, I don't know how Sea of Thieves works in terms of its monetization.
Yeah, I don't know if does it have. I don't think it has anything apart from cosmetics, does it?
I mean, most
that might be enough.
Well, yes, obviously, but I mean, there's no battle pass for Sea of Thieves.
Not that I'm aware of.
The expansions are paid, though, right?
No, the expansions are all free.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
I thought the Pirates of the Caribbean one was a purchase.
I thought it all got roped in, and it was like a vehicle for Game Pass, so that's a bit.
Well, sure.
That muddies it a little bit.
I'm trying to think of one that goes along and doesn't die.
I think Rocket League's the middle ground, right? For that, yes, it has a battle pass, but it has a self-sustaining battle pass that a lot of things.
Rocket League doesn't count for anything because it was so misaligned to the whole monetary. Like, it started off as basically a free game because it was on the PlayStation Pass or whatever, so everyone just got it through that. And then it had microtransactions, but they were normal microtransactions.
Sure, they had they had DLC packs at first, right?
Well, yeah, that's sort of what I meant by normal microtransactions. And then by the time it had a battle pass, it was already past the relevance of it. Like, it very barely the battle pass was at the time when Rocket League was sort of relevant, and then it faded after that. So I don't think you can say it having a battle pass is how Rocket League worked, because I don't think that was how Rocket League ended.
Right? Yeah. Okay. It didn't come out the gate at the gate with all of that. But
no. They tried to put that in to sustain it, I guess.
Yeah, and I think that's worked for them.
I don't know if it has, though. Right? Like, it maintained, but I don't think it. I don't think.
I mean, sometimes that's all you need. Like at least, I mean, it counts. It's these days it's one of the longest running live service games that's still looked at in a positive light.
And again, I would also say, like, is it really a live service game when all they're doing is shitting out all these crappy cosmetics and that's it? Like,
yeah, I guess it's not fundamentally changing.
No. Even just the most recent update where they're like, here's season 14 or whatever, here's the new map, it's just Aquadome again, but with a slightly different background.
But then there's Call of Duty Warzone fundamentally changing, really, other than the fact that you can play as Nicki Minaj.
Whereas any Call of Duty ever changed in the last 20 years, really.
Or Groot. I mean, that's all they really mean by live service, is a game you keep coming back to and someone spends money. Not everyone, just someone.
Yeah.
Apex Legends, right? Perfect case for that.
Yeah.
A free to play game where you can spend some money to unlock more characters or more skins, and that's about it.
But that's why
Valorant is in this category. Rainbow Six Siege is in this category.
That's what I'm saying, though. It's like someone spends money is the assumption that like you're just assuming that there's some whales out there that are going to spend money on your shit at this point. And I don't think they worry about that any longer. They're like, this is a proven model, so we can just do it.
But there's got to be enough people to do that to still make it profitable. Like that's the trick. It's got to be mainstream enough that you get enough people spending the little bits and enough to pull in the whales so they will actually come and spend that money. Like, okay, it's a horrible way of thinking about it, but the game has to be big and popular before people come in and actually spend the kind of money that keep it alive.
Yes, but what I'm trying to say is that I don't think at this point, or maybe at this point, they're just starting to consider the fact that that's not guaranteed to happen.
Absolutely not guaranteed. Yeah.
I think before now, or in the last few years at least, it was at the point where if you put out a live service game, you just assume that you're going to get enough people to maintain it for a year or two.
Yeah, maybe that was the assumption they're making. I mean, that's a wrong assumption.
Well, yes.
Yeah. And it has been for a while.
But does that mean, do you think, if you think that's the case, that they're only just realizing that they're not as good a bet as they thought, that there will therefore be less of them?
Well, I mean, that's...
No, I mean, if anything, the exact opposite has happened. We're still seeing more pop up than ever.
Well,
Foam Stars counts in this category, right?
Are we seeing the end of the peak before the companies, basically? We're seeing the dregs of the peak now before the companies have suddenly realised that it's not going to work any longer. Which is why Warner Brothers are still saying that they're going to make them, because it's like...
The problem is that with live service this time round, and I say this time round because I'm comparing it directly to the MMO thing.
Right.
It's the same thing, right? Like, WoW turned up, blew up, and then everyone wanted in.
Yeah.
Too many turned up, and then you can't spread yourself. Players can't spread themselves that thin. But the problem is then when that was happening, video games were actually just a smaller thing than they are now, right? Like just in general, there were fewer players, right? So by today's standards, that was a relatively small number of games that were popping up with that model that couldn't sustain. They couldn't sustain a subscription, right? That was the important thing then, because they were all going for the subscription model. Nowadays, we are so flooded with probably 10 times more live service games that come along, try something, 99% of them, some ridiculously high percentage, fail or go under the radar, or have had too much budget thrown at them that they can't just stumble along somehow and be profitable and be kept up. But of course they're going to fail. There's too many. Like, we're in that situation again, and it's like they keep. This time it feels like no one's really cottoned on to the fact that there's a lot, and there's a lot of popular ones. This time it seems a bit different because it feels like there's more popular ones, right? You got Apex, you got Fortnite, you got Valorant, you got your Dotas, you got your League of Legends. They're all kind of in this same category. Yeah. There's a lot of these long-term games that people put money into and are still playing.
But that's because the market's bigger, though, now.
The market is a lot bigger, but there's still a limit. And we've been at that limit for a while. And you have to be something really special in order to break it. And Overwatch was probably the last thing that it feels like to sort of actually pull that off. And even though that was that's sort of skating the edge of a live service game in a weird way. But then Overwatch 2, they got greedy and fucked it up, right? It's like they somehow lost all their favor. Like, they were onto a good thing and then somehow broke it. I don't know. It's like games like the Finals come out is one of the more recent ones that was like, by most people's metrics, a pretty good game. But is it? Have you heard anyone talk about the Finals since that came out? No. There's too many people playing COD. There's too many people playing Fortnite.
I don't think it's been long enough.
I think we're saturated.
Well, yes, but I don't think it's been long enough past the peak for it to past the peak of the MMOs, past the peak of World of Warcraft or whatever. It was still plenty of years after that where people were still trying.
Sure.
I don't think we
Final Fantasy 11.
That was
fairly early, but then Final Fantasy 14 was still sort of in that window, and it took them to make Realm Reborn before it actually picked up.
Well, I mean, that was maybe the indication that they were at the end of the peak, where they had to do that to actually make it still work.
To recover, yeah.
So I don't think we're fully past that point with live service yet. I think we're at that point where it's like now the customers are starting to not want it, but the companies haven't fully realised yet.
Grasped it yet, yeah. And they're very obvious. I mean, sometimes you could say that that's like a delay thing, right? That there is a delay in action in video games because it takes so long to develop them.
That's why you're saying these games are still coming out, and it's like, haven't you realised? It's like, well, they probably have now, but they've committed too much resource to it.
And then Warner Brothers turn around and say, no, we're still going to try it. And
well, I mean, that's what you have to say to the investors, though, right? Because you've committed all these resources to making the thing. You have to at least keep saying that until you've at least put them out.
But they just put one out and it's not doing it.
You don't know what else they might be working on, though.
What else are they working on? The Matrix. The Matrix Online
live service. Oh, no. Bring back the MMO.
You can buy certain grades of shiny trench coat. I don't know.
That might... I mean, as far as cosmetics go, that might actually almost be good, because having that much of a design constraint on fitting into the Matrix style might actually require some effort.
Yeah.
Not just TF2ing it and putting a random hat on Neo.
Well, I mean, I guess that's the other problem, right? Like, Fortnite somehow accidentally fell into the hole that they can do anything.
By having, no inherent
no style. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
They can do absolutely anything they want. And in a weird way, it is, yeah. Because now everyone, if you do have a style, it's harder to fit in. Because as much as I love Splatoon, it has such a strong style that any cosmetic DLC, I don't feel like is worth it, right? Not even if it looks rad as flip. It's just all of Splatoon looks rad as flip.
Yeah, all the base game stuff.
Yeah, there's no way in there. And I think, to some extent, Nintendo realised that, which is why they haven't really doubled down on cosmetic DLC.
No.
Good thing. Yeah, I don't know. That was a fun discussion. I don't know. It's in a weird place, and I think you are betting the farm if you're going for live service games, but. As you say, you only need one to work. It's just really incredibly difficult to do that right now.
I'm sure these investors are spreading their investments over a few in development.
Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking of the little guys, like things like Omega Strikers and stuff like that are trying to push little esports realms of their own.
I feel like there is a different tier of what you would still technically call live service games that are down towards the indie end of the scale.
Yeah.
Where it works slightly differently on that scale of business,
right,
I guess.
Because you don't need the player base and you're not spending the budget.
Yeah.
I guess that's what I was alluding to earlier, but it's like you haven't committed so much money to getting the thing out the door.
Like you'd still call it a live service game, but that's not what you mean when you talk about live service games in the industry.
Yeah, it's not what the bigger discourse is really about.
Yeah.
Right? But then I do. See, now my brain is immediately low. Thinking of the slightly smaller esportsy game, my mind has now immediately been cast towards Laser League. Rest in peace. I really enjoyed that game. Monday Night Combat.
Yep. I knew it was coming.
I knew it was coming.
You hate to see it.
Now I was just literally just trying to remember. Did they have DLC or anything in the first Monday Night Combat?
Oh, they must have done.
I
can't remember.
They added that new map that was free, but was that
added maps,
tied to a DLC?
They had a Valentine's Day special. It kind of was live service, right?
Yeah, but I don't know if there was straight DLC, like not even skins, because they were slightly before the TF2 hat craze kicked off.
Yeah, kind of. Can you still play Monday Night Combat?
I mean, you can if someone hosts a server. If you could get a whole 6 people together.
Yeah.
Or, 12, I guess. 6 on 6, right?
Was it that many? I thought it was quite a small player base. For it.
Yeah, that does seem slightly too many. But at first I thought 6, like 3 on 3, but that seems too few. So maybe it was like 4. I don't even remember.
Yeah, I can't see anything about DLC for them. Maybe there wasn't. Maybe they just added to it to try and get more people.
Because I mean, that game, perfect opportunity to fit sponsorships in there because it was literally a game with sponsorships built into the gameplay.
Yeah. And they were some of the best fake ones as well. They were great. Love that. Spunky Cola.
Get juiced.
Nice. Oh man, what a game! I got some more Warner Brothers news for you. They're shutting down Rooster Teeth.
Is it Warner Brothers?
Warner Brothers Discovery.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Is the parent?
I knew Discovery was in there somewhere.
Yeah.
Rooster Teeth of
Red versus Blue
fame. Yeah.
Yeah. Introducing the insult cockbite to the masses.
I mean, realistically, Rooster Teeth died about 2 or 3 years ago.
Kind of.
They had all their scandals, and then the old crew left, and they got in a bunch of new people, and it was never the same, of course, because that's how that works.
Sure.
And then it just gradually fell off, and then all the corporate acquisitions happened. And it was like, well, this is not going to end well.
No, we've seen this before. I mean, there you go. I did that. Damn, I used demean as just a random filler.
Why did you pick up on it that time? Out of all the other times you've done it this point,
I've done it quite a few, haven't I?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but when you say that again, it's like, let me lay it down, guys. This is how I feel. I
think that's what I'm trying to say. Yeah. It's like, it's not like I'm just. I need to like. It's my audio equivalent of leaning forward and go, hold up.
Yeah, hold up.
Hold up a second. What's happening to Ruby Dog? I love that show. I mean, I like it quite a bit. Love may be a bit strong, but it's pretty good.
Are you like up to date on it?
No, I'm not, because the last season is on Crunchyroll.
Oh, right, yes.
And not just Crunchyroll, but Crunchyroll Premium.
Yep.
So it's behind a paywall now, and none of the previous seasons were. You could just watch them on roosterteeth.com.
Yes. I feel like they did say that Rue was going to continue.
I don't think it's been
good.
I did try and look it up, but I couldn't find any hard evidence that was true or false. But that would suck if it didn't, because it's a pretty good show. I've talked about it before. It starts pretty ropey in the visual department, not gonna lie. It took them a while to get their tech together and get it working. But I don't know. I quite enjoy it. I quite enjoy that show. It's pretty stupid in places. and that's what you need.
Clearly.
So yes, that's a moment of internet history gone.
Well, the important question is like whether they're going to delete everything, because obviously people are frantically archiving as much shit as they possibly can.
There was some statement that the Rooster Teeth website is going to have to close, and obviously they're hosting pretty much a lot of their shows there.
Yeah,
for to watch. So if that closes, then the source is gone, right? And imagine YouTube to get filled with it shortly after, I guess.
Because I mean, everyone references what happened to Machinima when they got shut down, and like the YouTube channel just got deleted almost immediately. So 10,000 videos just got instantly killed.
Madness. Yeah, utter madness. Talking of cancellations. EA have cancelled that their Star Wars game that Respawn was working on. Not that one. Not the Jedi series. That's still going. They were working on some other shooter game.
Yep.
Not the Ubisoft one on Zach's
not that one.
League.
Not that one. Not Outlaws.
That's another one.
Yeah, EA wouldn't be able to cancel a Ubisoft game. They'd struggle with that, I suppose. But,
well, I don't know. They could probably just buy Ubisoft and cancel it.
Yeah,
do you reckon EA could buy Ubisoft?
Maybe.
I don't know which one's bigger these days.
Well, EA has a FIFA, you know. They have effectively infinite money.
Fuck money.
Yep. Yeah, this was
Respawn maker of, Titanfall 2, a great shooter.
Well, you see, this was the thing that was weird about that announcement, is that they made a statement about it where they were like, we're cancelling this Star Wars shooter because we want Respawn to focus on, they said specifically, Jedi and IPs Respawn is famous for, essentially. Which I'm like, that's a Titanfall, basically. Yeah.
That's all they've got.
Titanfall 3 confirmed.
Yeah, that's like.
I mean, let's hope.
But I feel like the whole thing about Titanfall 3 was like EA didn't want to make it.
I didn't, no.
So, and I don't feel like there's been any real reason for EA to reverse that stance.
I mean, Apex.
Maybe they were like stealth developing Titanfall 3, but with a crappy Star Wars spin on it.
It was actually Titanfall 3 the whole time.
Yeah.
You were dropping ATSDs down and then jumping in them.
Exactly.
I wonder if that was I thought that was the story behind Apex, right? Because Apex was originally being developed as a tech stuff for Titanfall 3, but then they, Battle Royale blew up, and they were like, "Well, can we just do that?" And so they did that.
You're joking there, Zach, but that actually sounds fun. Dropping ATSDs onto them.
But ATSDs are nowhere near as useful as Titans.
No, that's true. You'd have to soup them up because they're too lame.
What if you could just drop any Star Wars thing from the sky? Not just ATSDs. What about AT-ATs and
sure,
all those hover tank things?
None of them are as useful as Titans.
No, but just because there'd be more of them and they'd all be less useful, wouldn't you just have more falls happening all the time? And that could look pretty funny.
Oh, well, I mean, yes, if it was a visual thing and you're actually seeing them like Titans.
They just all fall from the sky constantly.
I actually don't know in Star Wars laws how AT-ATs even get deployed.
Right.
Presumably they aren't just dropped from orbit.
I think they did introduce a sort of transport thing in the Solo movie, right? Didn't you see a big heavy Imperial
I don't know.
dropship thing that carried stuff, like some kind of carrier thing, but I don't know if it carried an AT-AT.
I guess it's not like Star Destroyers would get low enough to just open a big ramp, right?
I mean, they probably could.
I suppose they do in that Ahsoka show, right? Towards the end, there's just a Star Destroyer.
The Star Destroyers can get into atmosphere.
I wish they hadn't put that, because that comes from Rogue One, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's a cool visual, but it's really dumb. I don't like it.
Anyway, that's a done thing. A dumb thing. And that'll be the news as far as I've got. Unless Zach's got some surprise news.
Well, all I've got is little bits of upcoming announcements for things that I like, games that I've been playing or will maybe be playing. Like the weird bit of actual, I guess, news, not so much as of a patch announcement, is that for some reason, Oxygen Not Included is going back to DLCs again after they made that whole big deal of not doing that.
Huh. All right.
Because I talked about that before, right? When after they did their Spaced Out DLC, which was quite a big deal because it was a fairly major overhaul of the game, actually. And then after that, they basically said, we're not going to do any more DLCs. We're going to go back to free updates like we do with Don't Starve or whatever. And they introduced that weird free cosmetic system where it's just like, why is this? This isn't microtransactions. This is literally just free. So why is this here? Like, what is the point of this? And then I speculated about it being like engagement or whatever, which I think is actually the case because, time drops and all that kind of stuff, even though it's completely free.
Right, yeah. You're doing your dailies. But, and that makes the numbers go up and that makes corporate happy.
But anyway, so they made this whole big deal about how they were not going to do any more DLCs. It was all going to be free updates. And now they've basically decided that they're going to go back to DLCs again.
I mean, I wonder if Oxygen Not Included was still like, there's still quite a lot of people playing this. We could do with some money.
Well, I mean, sure, but the problem that I have with it, with this announcement, is that they basically imply that the DLCs they're going to be making going forwards are not going to be like as complicated as Spaced Out. Like they basically don't want to have multiple essential code bases that they have to maintain simultaneously, because that's the problem with the Spaced Out DLC and the base game, is that because they are quite different overall, you're basically having to maintain two separate branches.
I see. They can't
every change they make.
Yeah, they can't just patch one. They've got to patch both. And they've somehow faffed it in such a way that that's not easy.
Well, I mean, even if it is easy, it's not 100% easy. There's still effort.
Still a pain. Yeah, I get it.
But yeah, so they kind of implied they don't want to have that happen going forwards. But then that makes me worry that like it's going to be. It's not going to be cosmetic DLC, but it's like gameplay cosmetic DLC. Because the first thing they said was like, we want to, for the first DLC we're going to be putting out an ice asteroid. So it's going to have, a different terrain generation that's going to make it icy or whatever. And there's probably going to be plants and animals, I guess, specific to this environment. And it's like, that is technically gameplay content, but it's basically reskins of existing mechanics, right? There's a limit to how much you can change by just doing that without adding new mechanics. If you don't want to make this whole separate code issue, that you can only add so much before you are going to have to maintain extra code.
It depends if they depends how they treat it. If it's just additive and doesn't modify the base in any way, then they could do that. Yeah,
but then you're still limited on what it can actually do, essentially. And also, I guess, balance, if you want to consider balance in a single-player game. But, like, when they made I guess it was the version 1 update where they added the last biomes, like the deserty biome specifically, and the plants and animals there feel like super unbalanced. Like if you get to that deserty biome and you get those specific plants and animals, that makes food almost trivial. Because I've talked about that before, I think. But like that kind of problem, but built into these little mini DLCs, I don't know. I feel
that sounds like more of a balancing issue than a code management.
But it's
issue.
Also because there's only so much you can do. Like when you're saying we're going to put a new animal and plant in this new ice biome or whatever, what's that going to mean? It's like, well, it's a plant and animal that can survive in sub-zero temperatures or whatever. But that's not really new mechanics. That actually just makes the game easier because now you have a plant that you can grow in a sub-zero temperature, and if you're in that.
You're getting options.
Yeah, but like more options actually makes that game just easier overall.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, because you can be like, what scenario am I in? Oh, right. Well, I've got a way I can fix that.
Yeah. So I don't know. Them saying that they're going to make these smaller and possibly more frequent DLCs, it's like I'm not sure I like that idea. But
okay, you've got your skeptics hat on.
Yeah. Maybe we were just spoiled by Spaced Out, how it was basically like a complete overhaul to the game.
Sure.
And then the only other bits of not really news, but like every goddamn game is about to patch, and it's going to be really annoying for me because I'm going to have to play them all. Like Stardew and Terraria, and they're all just about to have their big patch that they've been teasing forever.
Wait, Stardew's still getting patched?
Yep. The next patch is going to have another different farm layout. Because basically every patch that Stardew has had has introduced like another farm layout since farm layouts were a thing. The first time that happened there was like 4, but everyone subsequent there's been like, here's the weird like enemy field farm where the enemies come out at night, and the weird beach farm where the sprinklers don't work because the land sucks or whatever.
I know you're talking about that one. Yeah.
But yeah, there's another new farm layout coming up for Stardew, so get another play for a Stardew. The next Terraria patch, because they still fucking won't stop updating Terraria, that's actually kind of got to the point of being a fairly big deal again. Maybe not so much in gameplay. Like they're making every boss have its own music track, so they've basically got rid of the generic boss music now.
Fancy.
So that's cool, I guess.
That is cool.
But yeah, there's those. There's another one I've already forgotten, but like it's basically all these games which have like games that you typically might spend 20 hours getting through, and they're all about the patch.
Right? Yeah.
Oh no.
Some biggies.
I mean, at least in Stardew, I can probably play that with someone.
Sure. Yeah.
Which also might make that not be a full playthrough. Because that's the kind of thing where someone will fall off and then that will make everyone stop.
Sure, yeah. Hard to commit to games of that length sometimes.
Yes.
So that's the news. What have you been playing, I guess?
But who, though?
I mean, Zach, do you want to run on?
Well, fortunately, I don't really actually have always anything to talk about this week, it turns out.
Just as well, we're pretty long.
Well, the news did take up some time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I continued playing Dice-Sphere programs somewhat, but I'm struggling to hold on to it because, like, as I'm getting to these late game achievements and it's getting later and later in the late game, it's just like I can't maintain
like the late show with Zachary Dice-Sphere.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I can't maintain my enthusiasm for this because I've sort of solved all the problems and all I'm doing is just copy pasting huge chunks of factory at this point. Like I've made the blueprints, and when it's like I just need to. One of the achievements is like you need to get your research rate up to 1 million hashes per second or whatever, which is a weird why it's even called that exactly.
It's just like is this a crypto thing?
I mean, I know what. I understand the way they would call it that, but it's like it's not. It's you're making the science cubes, you're putting them in the lab, and then the labs just have a rating of like how many hashes per second they run at when they're consuming the cube, but that's not related to like how long the cube takes to consume or anything. It's just like they've just randomly decided to call it that instead of science per second or whatever, I guess, or cubes per second. Science cubes.
But if you consume more science, don't your hashes get more complex?
You would think so.
That's not really a linear scale.
No, but unfortunately it is in terms of this achievement where it's like you need to get your lab research rate up to 1 million hash per second, and I'm just like, that's a lot. But the trouble is that at this point I've made the blueprints for each color of science cube, so I can just stamp those down. But like there's no gameplay to that any longer. I've solved that puzzle.
You just got to keep.
Yeah, all I would be doing is just making that over and over and over on as many different planets as I can.
But why? Why does the game give you an achievement that insane?
Yes, that is as I've got into these super late game achievements, I'm starting to see the ones where it's like this doesn't seem like balanced. This maybe seems like they didn't balance this achievement very well.
I'm going to say something controversial here.
I'm sure.
Given that I'm saying it.
Yeah.
Don't have to get them all.
Well, no. But as I said last time, it's like once you're this deep into the game and these late game achievements are there, it's like if you don't commit to get them, you're never going to get them.
And that's okay.
Well, no, it's fine. But like, this is the opportunity. Like, if you've already committed this far into it, then you might as well. Especially in this game where it's like, because these late game achievements, it's because I knew these late game achievements were so late game. It's like, can I actually make it there?
Man, I think if I had that mentality about the Yakuza games, I would probably be Kiryu right now.
Probably. But yes,
I'd be wearing a white suit right now, and
not a purple one.
No, it'd be white with a purple shirt.
Well, sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. It's just I guess I didn't fully know how bad these achievements were until I got to this point. Like, it's hard to estimate that kind of thing without getting close and be like, oh wait, 1 million hashes per second is a lot. It's like when my labs are running at the maximum of like 30,000, I'm like, oh, that's a lot more. And then I'm looking at it like, so is there a way to cheese this? Surely there must be a way to cheese this. Because I guess the trick to it might be, because it's per second, it doesn't mean you have to run continuously at that speed.
Or you just have to hit it like in a burst.
Yeah, so you could just buffer up a bunch of science and then build a bunch of extra labs, so you'd have a huge amount of extra instant research.
Yeah, it depends. Yeah, I guess. Depends how that stat is tracked.
Yes,
yeah.
That is the problem, because some stats in the game are tracked over a longer period of time, like the weird metadata thing that allows you to sort of transfer your science progress between saves. That counts how many science cubes you make per hour of each color.
Oh, right.
So hopefully
that's nice and obviously, like, presumably defined as per hour.
Yes,
right?
It does say it.
Yeah, so I guess.
But when it says hashes per second, I assume that's going to be based on more than 1 second of sample data.
Might not.
Well, it might not. It might literally, if you just look on the graph where it shows you your science rate, maybe it is just if it peaks over a million. Yeah. But even that would be a lot of extra labs that I'd have to build, considering I'm at 30,000 with my current lab set up. Have to make that 30 times as big. just building labs, which isn't actually difficult. Like I probably could just copy paste that up in a couple of minutes, because I have the labs being made in my make everything factory, so I can just blueprint it and copy it down. And then buffer a bit of science.
That doesn't sound usually fun. Like just building 30 times more what you've already built.
Well, I'm saying it's not. That's the point. That's why this achievement doesn't seem very balanced.
Yeah.
Unless
out.
Unless I'm misunderstanding it somehow.
Listen to the Happy Salad Saladcast whilst you lab.
I have done. This is our own shit.
We're so funny.
Yep. Very occasionally. So yeah, and then I guess the other main late game achievement I've vaguely been working on is like the 50 gigawatt Dysosphere around a red giant, because that's actually quite easy. Like just deploy a Dysosphere. I've already got the like massive rocket manufacturing thing, so I can pretty much just make a Dysosphere wherever by just shipping them over there. But again, that's like no gameplay to that. You just
time.
Design the sphere and just wait for the rockets to launch.
Right, yeah.
Scale up your rocket factory using that blueprint, but then you're just placing down more blueprints again. So yeah, I guess I'm not sure. It's got to the point where I still don't want to abandon this, but I think I'm going to have to, because I just can't commit myself to doing it any longer.
Definitely wouldn't be able to stomach it.
But game's still not finished, so maybe in future rebalancing those achievements will become more achievable, or the achievements will get changed.
Yeah, just wait for some expansion where it's just like, there's another tier, and you're like, oh, is it like a ×2, or are we talking like squared?
Yeah. And I guess maybe this also runs very slightly into my problem, the classic me problem of like, not wanting to leave resources behind. It's like you've got this entire like star cluster of like 30 star systems, and then each star can have multiple planets. And I'm worried about whether I'm using up 100% of the resources on one planet. It's like, I really shouldn't do that.
No, there's plenty to go around. Just go somewhere else where it's easier.
Because they give you the option, because when you're building like the mineral veins, obviously obstruct your buildings, but if you use landfill, you can just hide them. Like, you can build landfill over them, which flattens them, but the resources are still there, so if you later want to re-expose them, you can actually just...
dig out the landfill.
Yeah, well, essentially. It's more like just the veins just pop into existence again on the surface. So they allow you to do that, so you can just landfill over all the obstructions on the planet, and therefore have a completely blank slate, essentially, to build all your blueprints on. But, I haven't managed to overcome my natural desire to exploit every resource to the maximum, even though that's dumb. Which is why another thing that I forgot to do in this save, I played this save on, 1 times multiplier of resources rather than what I normally played on, which was 0.5, because that means you can expend the resource veins quicker and get them out of the way.
I see what you mean. Just to deplete them and then they're not a problem.
Yeah. But that's dumb. Shouldn't even do that. You play that game with infinite resources if you want, and then only ever reveal the veins that you're actually going to use, and never have to move them ever. I mean, I guess there are some of the achievements are tied to 1 times resources or less, so you have to do it at least normal resource rate. But yeah. When you have this huge star cluster full of planets, it's like you really shouldn't worry about it. Because I was also, as I was running out of things to do, I started designing a blueprint to grind the enemy bases more efficiently. Because I have on one planet, I have a single enemy base that I've left that's being ground by turrets, basically. And it just harvests the enemy drops, because the enemies drop not only specific special items, but generic resources as well. And it scales up by the level of the enemies. So the longer that enemy base has existed, the more worthwhile the drops become. So I'd set up this thing with turrets to extract the resources from this one base. But I was like, but what if you could do that for a whole planet? Where you have on the north pole of the planet, you have basically a ring of turrets protecting your shipping towers that ship all the resources out, but then all the enemies will just constantly attack that ring, so you can just harvest all the resources. It's you don't need those resources because you've just got a whole star cluster of normal resources. It's cool that you can harvest these resources from the enemies, and maybe it saves you a bit of effort because you can harvest these high tier components out of them, and the special stuff, I guess, that you do need to only specifically get from them for the super last tier of buildings that need these specific enemy items. But there's no real reason to build this super complicated grinding mechanism to harvest the maximum possible out of them, because you're never going to use these resources, because you're never going to use the whole of the other planet's resources.
Sure.
It might be funny to do a game where you, luckily this isn't an achievement, have an achievement for playing the game and never harvesting an actual resource, only get your resources from the enemies.
Oh, right. Yeah, that'd be weird.
I don't think you'd actually be able to do that, though, because you wouldn't be able to start that run. I don't think you'd be able to attack the enemies sufficiently right at the start of the game to actually harvest enough resources to actually make any progress. It's only a late game thing the way you can really grind them down. So yeah, there's that. There's Dice Fit for him. And then for a video, we played Forager, and then I played a little bit more Forager, as I tend to do.
Whoa. Guess what?
What?
I've played about 10 hours of Forager.
Yeah, I figured you might.
You guys have both into Forager. So what is it?
Well, Rob can talk about it, because I think I've already talked about this on the podcast probably many times, actually.
You probably have, yeah. But, I don't really know what camp to put it in, really, in terms of to genre define it.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's almost an idle game territory in some respects. It's kind of a grind 'em up. You kind of have to. You're a little pixely marshmallow dude, and you start off on an island with very little on it, and then resources start sprouting off from the ground, and you get your little pickaxe out and you start mushing on them, and then you skill up eventually, and that lets you build forges and factories and foundries and whatever, and then you start being able to turn those resources into more useful things, and then you use those more useful things to make more powerful stuff, and then that helps you get more stuff, and then eventually buy land, and then you can expand, and then you'll find weird stuff, and you'll find more resources on these other bits of land, and you just keep getting more skills, and you just keep getting more resources, and you just keep getting more stuff.
Yep.
Endlessly, almost, it feels like at this point. Like I'm 10 hours
stuff.
Yeah, it's that's why I think it's somewhat equivalent to an idle game, because
it's equivalent to an idle game. You're definitely not idle. Like you're always doing something in the game.
You're like pickaxing something or micromanaging a thing somewhere else, and you're just trying to make the numbers go up.
I mean, I guess technically you might call this an incremental game, but that implies a different kind of game. To how this actually plays, but it is incremental. You are looking to like upgrade things to make everything happen a bit quicker.
Yeah, or happen without you being involved.
Yes, or automatically.
I don't know. Like one of the early things is like, I need wood, and I need berries, and I need to be able to put fish traps down so I can catch sand and catch fish, because I need fish to replenish my stamina. And stuff like that. I could eat these berries, but these berries are crap at that. So I need fish. Fish will replenish my stamina nice, a bit more nicely. So let's focus on that for a bit. And then it's like, oh well, these fish traps get more expensive the more I build. I need to be acquiring berries faster. So let's invest in farming, I guess. Let's try and farm some berries, and so I can have a whole bunch of berries. I don't know what berries are involved in making a fish trap. I don't. The logic in this game,
or luring the fish, presumably.
Well, maybe, yeah. So some of the logic in this game is a bit weird in places.
Well, it gets much weirder.
But anyway, like you get to the point where it's like there's a skill to basically make it so like the fish traps will go have a big label over them that says "caught" when something is in them, and you've got to manually go over there and push a button to get the thing to spit out, basically whatever it is. And you eventually gain the ability at some point would be like, no, they'll just go in your inventory. It's like you don't have to go walk up to them, and you're like, oh, holy hell, that is so nice. Yeah. It's like something that's one job I don't have to do. And I'm kind of like, I want more of that. I want more like I need more skills that are just like, no, you don't have to do that anymore. And it's like, that'd be so nice. Because I think the start of it's okay. Crazy addictive, this thing.
Yeah,
crazy addictive.
Well, that's why when you say like when I said like you're always doing something, that's the problem, because you're always doing something. You don't realize how much time you're spending because you're always doing something. So there's always just one more thing to do.
There's always just one more thing. Time just disappears. It's like I thought this would be like my short time game, but since we did the video, I have not touched Yakuza 0.
Oh no,
I've not gone anywhere near it. I haven't gone anywhere near any other game. I've just been playing this because I just sort of settle down and go, I'll just do a little bit of that, and then like 4 hours fly by. It's stupid. It's one of those.
It even has an even more subtle way of where like it's difficult to stop because like going to the menu doesn't pause the game, so you feel like you're under pressure constantly.
Everything's always going. Yeah,
it feels like. I mean, you can save and quit at any time, and it's totally fine. But like, even just the fact that it doesn't pause while you're in the menu gives you that weird sensation of being like constantly under pressure to move, to be doing things.
Always got to be doing things. There's always things gaining. Sometimes enemies spawn near you when you're in menus. Although I'm not entirely sure they can actually hurt you all the time. Sometimes,
yeah, it seems like most of the time when you're in the menu, they don't actually target you.
Yeah, I've definitely had things jump at me, but like and I thought, I'm going to lose a heart, and then nothing happened, and it was fine. I would recommend watching the video because there's quite a lot going on in the video where you're sort of doing that initial expansion is quite rapid, right? Or the initial, there's like it feels like I've got a new thing I can build, and now I'm getting new materials out of it, and I've sort of spent. I think almost immediately after that video, things start to slow down quite a bit.
For a while, yeah. And then it like picks up again.
So I've gone into like a super heavy grind phase but then I think a lot of that is actually to just me, because it feels like there's so much to do at some point where you're just doing the stuff without necessarily thinking, why am I doing this stuff? Like I perhaps I need to do other things. Like I need to just buy land more frequently.
Yes, I mean that is, even when I've been playing it again, I've fallen into that same trap where I keep thinking like, surely I should be progressing better. Oh wait, I should probably actually buy some land.
Yeah,
because that's kind of how you get the progress.
I've ran into a few like difficulties because one of the things early on that I was starting to have inventory trouble.
Yeah,
so I was like, I need these backpack upgrades, dog. But like cows and leather and hide, like
kind of rare,
pretty rare. Yeah, so that was a real hurdle for a while. But I kind of focused in on that, which was stupid. Like because I could have just built a whole bunch of vaults.
Yes, that too.
Once you'd unlock that skill, and it's like, but for some reason, I really like zeroed in on on getting this damn backpack upgrade and getting enough leather for that. And it's like I really shouldn't have just. And of course, I wasn't really doing anything else because I was focusing on that. And it's like what I should have done was just buy land, expand in a different way, go do the other stuff that and just naturally gain that hide and make that level over time and come back to it. And and that's difficult to do. But also the game is just a little bit... I think some of its mechanics are a bit ineffective, I would say. Like, so you can farm.
But you really don't need to.
But the ratio at it is pretty low, right? The benefit is pretty slim.
Well,
like, so if you're like...
Well, that's the trick, though, because it's only that bad right at the start because you don't have the upgrades for, like, multiplying the drop rate or whatever.
Right, okay, so it's still bad for me, right? Because my rate is, like...
3 seeds to 4 plants.
3 in, 4 out, yeah, which isn't great. And that's still where I'm at. And I'm trying to grow a bucket of berries and a bucket of pumpkins at the moment for no reason. I thought I came across pumpkins and we're like, oh, that's another thing I've got to shove in the museum.
Yeah,
because the museum basically
asks, 50.
Yeah, the museum asks you to make a bunch of stuff and just donate it to it. And I haven't seen what any of the rewards are for completing a category in that yet. And I bet like the game will balance itself so you actually just get all of those at the end, right? Like because those categories seem to have run the gamut of like, stuff you find early and stuff you find at the end. So I'm enjoying myself. I'm playing the Xbox version, because it's on Game Pass, as it turns out.
Oh yeah,
which I didn't realize. So we did the video on the Steam version, and I could have tried to like because we've got like library sharing on. I could have tried to steal Zach's version, or I could have bought a version, I guess. But you
didn't need to.
But I noticed it was on Game Pass, so I started fresh, and my achievements on Steam be damned, I guess. What I will say is, I think the Xbox version has a few problems.
Right,
like, it is it's clear that control scheme is geared up for like mouse and keyboard, and it hasn't 100% been.
Yeah, I've
controller optimized.
I've seen people playing with a controller. It's because the interact range is shorter because you can only really touch things that are sort of next to you because of the way the aiming with the control stick works, right?
Yeah, and well, you don't really aim. That's the thing. It's sort of like around your character, sort of in the direction you're moving, and it prefers the horizontal.
Right. Yeah.
But if you're near a building or near some other interactable object, the target tends to go there. So if you're trying to build something in a specific place, there are moments where it's actually like almost impossible to target a specific square because there's something interactable nearby. And that's been a repeating problem. And also with the default controls, when I eventually got bows and I was trying to shoot that, the control setup is right stick to aim it. And of course, in the attack button by default is on X.
Right.
So that's... How do what? So I need to sort of do a claw action to fire the damn bow, and that's with the default control scheme.
Yeah, that is weird.
So I'm now trying to I've moved X. Like, fortunately, you can reconfigure them, but you've got to back out. You've got to save and exit the game to get to the control menu.
Right.
And then back in the control menu, it's like, oh, okay, I've remapped X to R, but I've spent like most of my time playing with X now, and it's like, and I got the lightning rod, right, which is another like aimed weapon.
Yeah.
And so now I'm having to reteach my brain after several hours of playing this game that X's do stuff. That it's like, no, I want that on right trigger so I can actually do that and aim at the same time. It feels like there's elements that were rushed.
Well, I mean...
And not quite thought through.
Yeah, I guess. And even in the PC version, it still feels like there's the occasional thing where it's just like, this could have used a second pass maybe on like... Because I was making like a gate to section off an island where I didn't want enemies walking through because I was playing in hard mode where the enemies are a lot more of a problem.
Right, yeah. Because they've been, other than a few enemies, I'll talk about that in a second. Other than a few enemies, they're almost not an issue.
Yeah. But so I was trying to build a gate to block off this area of the map, and then the gates, you have to stand really close to them before their interact prompt will actually show to open and close them. But if you're even slightly overlapping the hitbox when it closes, you're just stuck.
Right. So
there's an incredibly tiny window where you have to be standing close enough to it to interact with it to close it. But if you're very slightly too close, you just get stuck. So
I definitely I've definitely got stuck. But at least you can open it again. Yes, you can get out. Yeah, I've done that quite a bit.
But that's one of those things where it's like this needed just a little more. This needed another pass to make this slightly more bearable to interact with.
Yeah, a little polished pass.
I mean, realistically, they should have just made it so when you close it, you can just clip through it until you step off the tile. That's how you would solve that problem.
Yeah. There's plenty of systems I don't think I've fully understood, like how to actually farm eggs and poop, and like, is there a way to actually do that? And
yes.
Yeah, I'm clearly not doing it right. Or how to attract more cows, or even the rough boys or whatever. I don't know what they're. The rough boys. The cow-like things that attack you.
I mean, the obvious big problem is because you don't know the tech tree, you don't know where to go to get the things that are going to be super useful.
Nope.
And I only vaguely remembered it. Even in that video, I completely boned up which direction I was going in a couple of times. Where it's like, I'm sure it was over here, but it wasn't.
I think I may have gone in a weird direction. You have to see where I'm at later and give me some pointers. Yeah, because I feel like.
But it's not only that you don't know where to go, it's that like certain upgrades in that tech tree are so much more useful than others.
Right, yeah.
Like fishing, who cares about fucking fishing? I mean, it upgrades the fish tracks, but who cares about the fishing rod?
I've never managed to make that do anything. I don't know what I'm doing there. Like, the game doesn't explain what you're supposed to do.
Yes, it doesn't explain it.
Yeah. I've never got that to do anything.
You just have to cast it and then just stand there until it says caught, and then you just hit the button.
Oh, really? Well, that takes
a long time, which is why it's completely useless.
Right.
It's like, it's so ineffectual.
Can I take that off my toolbar?
If the Xbox version works the same as the PC version, then you can, yes. Okay. There's like the burger button in the bottom right if you can get to that, if that exists.
No, it doesn't.
There's a thing in there where you can toggle what's on the toolbar on and off.
Yeah, okay.
But if that doesn't exist in the Xbox version, you might be screwed.
I mean, there's no like. You have to imagine there's no like just UI I can move the mouse to. I have to push a button to pull something up.
I mean, but presumably there might be a way to get to that somewhere.
Yeah, presumably. Yeah. Anyway, it's got its problems, and I've discovered some cool stuff. I found a Zelda-like dungeon.
Yeah.
In the sandy area. And this was at the point where, like, okay, so I'd seen a couple of these like laser obelisk things.
Yep.
That sort of track you and then start zapping you and like can do your health pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And this was at the point, bearing in mind, I hadn't yet discovered that you can upgrade your hearts and stamina at this point.
Right, yeah.
So, and they seemed like they took a bucket load of damage, those things. Like, step in, hit them a few times, back out. Step in, hit them a few times, back out. Step in.
Well, I mean, obviously that depends on your sword upgrade.
Indeed. I'm a gold sword.
Right.
So.
Oh yeah, because it's bones right after gold, because then you have the great skulls, which is a whole other thing.
Got enough of. Yeah. So I'm only at level 2 sword out of what, like 9-ish or something. There's quite a lot on that. It seems on that bar.
Yes.
So yeah, those are a bit of a pain. So then I go to do this dungeon. The dungeon's a little awkward in itself. Like it's puzzling. It's like it's not. I wouldn't call it particularly well designed. No. It's functional, but.
Well, I mean, that when I was doing that dungeon in my hard playthrough, I managed to get myself stuck twice because it's quite easy to get yourself stuck in that dungeon.
Right. But you can save and exit and it actually just puts you outside.
Yeah, it puts you outside.
Yeah.
But it resets everything as well.
Yeah, it does, which was a pain. So yeah, I got to the boss in that thing and was so inadequately prepared for what that boss fight actually is. It's nuts because the enemy is super. The big enemy, I didn't really figure out. It wasn't really hurting me all that much. It doesn't attack all that often. It just has a bucket load of health and is big.
Yeah.
But then a whole bunch of stuff just spawns in the room and just like really quickly spawns in the room. So I ended up cheesing it because I just happened to have a bucket load of bombs that I made up, thinking that would be necessary, like because I noticed there were destructible bits of walls in this Zelda dungeon. And just ran around planting bombs over this entire thing. I mean, that's switching to fish every now and then.
Probably a pretty good valid tactic, I guess.
And just blew the whole room up and burnt fish in the downtime.
Well, I mean, burning fish is the actual. Even when you fight that boss normally, you're still going to have to constantly repair your health.
Yeah. God knows how I got through that. That felt clunky as hell, but it was kind of fun. Like coming out the other end going, well, I can't believe that worked.
Well, I guess it's kind of that boss is weird because like the lower health it's on, the faster it spawns enemies. So you kind of have to, even though that boss is also constantly zipping around the room doing a weird teleport thing, you kind of have to try and constantly focus on it. Like the lower its health gets, the faster you want to kill it, because otherwise it's just going to keep making more and more goddamn enemies.
I couldn't deal with even when it was spawning a few amount of enemies. I couldn't kill them quickly enough.
Well, no, you basically have to ignore the extra enemies and just. Because your iframes last for quite a long time in that game, you do have a lot of, even on low health, you have enough time to be like, oh, I've gone down 1 health, eat a fish. Go back to hitting things.
Yeah.
But you basically have to ignore the regular enemies and just get the boss out of the way and then clear up.
It's a special kind of madness that is both bad, but I also kind of approve of.
But then you get the probably best extra item in the game, that lightning rod.
The lightning rod.
Why mine anything when you just shoot lightning at it and it destroys everything in the vicinity?
Yeah, but I've only just got it, so I haven't really experimented with it yet. I've had some like wizard thing throw ice at me from the from the one bit of Iceland I have. But, he seems pretty nasty. And then I discovered spirit orbs, and it was just like, oh, that's what you use these for.
Yes.
Then you can actually level up, upgrade your stats a bit. That was fun.
You got plenty more of that to do.
Oh, God, really?
Well, yes, obviously.
It feels like it's taking too long to get to this point.
Well, technically, you've only done one of the 4 dungeons to start with, obviously.
Oh, shit the bed. Well, one thing I will say, it needs a bucket load more music, that game.
Well, yes, I listen to other things.
The music tracks are fine, but there's not enough of them.
But you won't be able to hear them for much longer. Soon you'll just have things going ching, ching, ching all the time. Ching.
Forager.
Yep.
It's all right. And then the week prior to that, I did play some Yakuza.
Well, yes.
Like I don't have much to add to it, like mechanically, but the story's getting good, yo. The lines are all coming together. People are dying. It's like, oh.
So you know it's getting good.
Yeah, it's getting good. I feel like it's taken longer than most Yakuza games to get to some sort of like
Mm-hmm.
even if this isn't like all the way through the game, to get to some sort of like halfway crescendo, like it feels
right.
like, or at least for like the threads to start coming together in meaningful ways. It feels like it's taken a longer route to get there than some of the other ones have. But it is starting to pay off. I am wondering if like Kiryu and Majima ever meet. Like they've both been to each other's towns now, but they didn't cross paths.
I mean, I doubt this is the case, but like, would it be some kind of ridiculous setup for like they have all this shit happen where Majima and Kiryu never actually meet, but Majima knows what's going on. So in some future Yakuza game, he's going to like call in the favor that Kiryu never knew he was being owed, because Majima solved all his problems from the shadows.
I mean, maybe, yeah. I mean, at this point in time, Majima knows that Kiryu knows of Kiryu.
Right.
Shall we say his name has been dropped? As I say, but I don't know if they've ever actually met as people, because he seemed like. He didn't look at the. There was a bit where he was handed like a business card of Kiryu's,
right?
And
why not Kiryu?
By not Kiryu, yeah. And he didn't look at it and go, "Oh, that guy," or anything.
Right.
He sort of looked at it and was like, "Kazuma Kiryu, huh?" Oh no, not huh. It'd be ka, wouldn't it, in Japanese? Kazuma Kiryu ka. And yeah. So I don't think they've met yet, like ever. I'm not sure they will. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's really interesting, actually. Because I really can't remember. Like, I think they knew of each other at the start of Yakuza 1.
I mean, but they would have had to, right?
Yeah.
On some level.
On some level, yeah.
I mean, I guess they technically wouldn't have had to have met. He could have just heard of him.
Yeah, I suppose, and just like turned up and be like, "Oh, I heard your hot shit, huh?
Yeah.
You've just come out of 10 years of prison. Huh?
Yeah.
No, I think they did know each, because the whole thing about Majima is he's trying to like hone Kiryu's skills back to where they were,
right,
in Yakuza 1. So he must know what they were.
That still wouldn't
maybe
necessarily have to mean that they personally knew each other, I guess.
Yeah, maybe by legend only. Who knows? The bit I've been trying to find, right? Because there's stuff in the completion list. It's like, I know, like Space Harrier and Outrunner in the game.
Right.
There's completion list items for like Fantasy Zone and Super Hang-On as well.
Right.
And I'm like, I've not seen these. Where the hell are these? I've been in like every Sega arcade in the game that I know of so far, and I've not come across these.
Secret Underground arcade.
Yeah, where's my Hang-On? I mean, there's no Purgatory in this game, right? That place doesn't exist,
right?
Because it's not been built yet. But there is still, in Sotenbori, Osaka, there is still an under the river fighting coliseum. Like, a boat just drives into the just sails into the middle of the river in Sotenbori, and then the floor falls out of it, and there's just a giant elevator in the middle of this river that leads to like an underground fighting coliseum. So, you know, they did something stupid with that. Still.
Why don't they not just have it be on the boat? It's like,
I mean, it's only a little...
I mean, it's not international waters, but I mean...
No, but it's a little boat, and the river's not that big. It's like, you couldn't have a massive, like, arena.
Yeah, I guess.
With convicts fighting it out. Fun game. Fun game. Yeah, that's probably me. Oh, no, wait, there's one other thing. I started... very briefly started playing the Punch Win.
Right.
The Punch Win?
The what? It's like the Penguin, except they've taken the pen part and replaced it with Punch.
Right.
Which is obviously why Rob would be playing this game, because penguins are involved.
It's got penguins. It's got a penguin wearing boxing gloves, which is just rad. And it's also made by Shinen. That's the important part of this. Right. It's made by the same guys that made Fast Racing RMX and The Tourist.
Which obviously doesn't really mean anything in the context of what type of game it is.
Oh, no. Very much no. This is a pixel art action puzzler sort of thing, where you're punching blocks where they need to be. So you can make lines of 3 of a certain color while they're falling from the screen, and no blocks make it to the top of the screen. And it's better than it has any right to be, as far as I can tell. It's like it's puzzle. It has puzzle stages as well, where it's a bit like. Do you remember the Pokemon Puzzle League? Kind of like you've got a certain number of moves in order to clear this stage. It's not really, you're not limited to number of moves, but if you make the wrong move, you can't actually solve it. Right? It's that, and those are quite hard. They're quite tricky to figure out, but the action stages have been pretty easy. And just like any other Shinen game, this has like way better production values than it should. It's a small side project for them. It's like it's not a big complex title, but the music is it's really good. Like it's like they're taking a sort of somewhere in between SNES and Genesis sort of old school sound set. So some stuff sounds like it's FM synth, some stuff sounds like it's SNES sample based, but it really works. It's got the soundtrack is great. Like just when you complete a level and the little jingle it plays is when it plays when you get the big pink gem at the end of it. It's like it's really satisfying, really punchy sounding. Like they've done punchy, yeah. They've done a really great job with the sound design on this thing, and again, it seems like Shin'en are amazing at that. Like Fast is great with that. The Tourist is great with that. They're just really good at that sound. I'm enjoying it, but I'm pretty early on. I haven't quite figured out how its economy works yet. Like, you earn money from the stages that are in just ice blocks that you punch. Of course, you punch them. And I've seen from the trailer there's like a bunch of mini games to do. But I think I've got one of them unlocked, but it costs quite a bit of money to have a go at, so I haven't had a go at it yet. It's pretty good. I'll go back to it. I'll definitely go back to it. But that was supposed to be my short time game, and then Forager happened, and that was supposed to be my short time game in between Yakuza sessions. I've kind of made a mistake, and I haven't played any Ridge Racer 3D. Ridge Racer 3D has not got its claws in me.
Well, who can blame you?
When you've got the punch win.
You've got the punch win.
You've got foraging.
Foraging. All right.
I just love that name. Also, like I forget where Shin'en are from. I think they're German, but they have a they say the punch win on the title screen, but it doesn't sound quite right. It's like I don't know. I think it's supposed to sound like punch win because it's penguin, right? So
yeah, clearly.
But it sounds more like punchin on the title screen. It's just like the punchin.
Well, we can continue to call it punch win.
Punch win, yeah.
That's clearly what it is.
The punch win. Quite fat as well. He's a fat little penguin. And there's like some kind of giant boxing glove spirit that you're perhaps accidentally freeing.
What? Are you wearing boxing gloves that have a spirit?
No, you're not. But when like you punch these ancient ruins into submission, this giant boxing glove with eyes goes, all right, mate.
Okay. No sympathy for the gloves on your hands that are getting pummeled. But I guess that's what they're for. That's their purpose in life. So.
Indeed. I don't know that. No, boxing gloves are meant to like actually subtly soften the blows, right? They're not supposed to make make it easier for your hands. They're not, and the person and the other person's face. I don't think they're the thing that enables you to punch ice.
Well, I think compared to a penguin's wings, boxing gloves are probably more effective.
Maybe.
Possibly. What kind of leather are they made of, though? Hopefully not penguin.
Leatherette.
Leatherette.
Then they're definitely not lasting.
All right, we're going a bit long. I think we better wrap it up.
We are going long.
Thanks for joining us.
You still wondering? You still wondering, by the way?
I haven't had a chance.
No wonder.
We'll get back to it soon. But you guys did a video of that.
Forager, yes.
Forager, yes.
So if you want to know what the ridiculously addictive fuss is about, check out our YouTube channel.
I'll go up in a couple of weeks.
Go up. Well, by the time we're back talking to you, that'll be up and you'll get to enjoy that. And there's other stuff up there in the meantime. And loads of other old podcasts on happysalad.net where you can find this podcast that you're listening to right now.
And get ready for next episode, new theme music.
Yeah.
Yes, because it's a new season of the Saladcast starting next time. Brand new theme music.
This is the glorious end of 14 years of podcast.
Thank you. The end of season 14. Time for the bright new future of season 50. So we'll catch you in a couple of weeks for that. Everything is different in the sense that nothing has changed. Well, we shall see. We don't know. We haven't got there yet. But I think it might be similar to the previous 14 ones. Why break it? Yeah.
Say like and talk about grammatical concepts.
Exactly. More grammatical concepts analysed at the start of next week's podcast.
More vocal coaching, free of charge.
Indeed. We'll catch you for that. Thanks. See you later. Bye.